Today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we are going to talk about a few different things. In This Week in Satire, we're going to address how that black stuff on Trudeau's face, that's just smoke.
just suit.
So
basically like,
don't
he's a
worry
chimney
about it. It's not a big deal. It's
chimney,
probably not racist.
Yeah.
Probably.
No, it probably is racist.
You never know these days.
Never know.
In the rants of the week, we're going to address somebody from Edmonton, a teacher who accosts a Muslim student for saying that he won't show up during their pride celebrations.
How dare you?
How racist. In Big Brother, Where Art Thou? We're going to talk about the DOJ. And how Biden's DOJ is totally fine with him accepting $5 million in foreign bribes, but not okay with the former president having classified documents, which he most likely declassified and has every right to own.
Technically, it should be called the DOI, not the DOJ.
Yes.
Department of Injustice.
Well, in fact, it's probably just called the... Oh, what is it called from 1984? It's the...
Ministry of Truth.
Ministry of Truth. Yes, Ministry of Truth.
I got you, buddy. I got you covered.
There you go. I was like, I know. I'm like, I have it on that. I'm like, it's not there. And then in our final segment of the weekly highlight, there is no weekly highlight this week. It is all terrible. But there is the weekly exposure.
Oh, yeah, we're exposing.
It's talking about the evils of Degeneracy Month. It's back, baby, and so are we. Back.
Stephen is making Degeneracy Month great again.
Yes. All of that and more on the Shrewd Dudes podcast. Alrighty, so I know it's been a while since we've been back, and I have a valid excuse, so don't blame me too harshly. So we were totally going to do the show on Tuesday, and then I got a notification from my wife at probably about 4 p.m. on Tuesday, saying,
very late.
Yeah, very late, saying, my parents are coming over for supper, and then you have to drive my cousin home afterwards. I was like, oh, sure. Guess we're not doing the show tonight. So I apologize very much for that. Yeah, it doesn't value.
Doesn't value and doesn't even recognize that you have a show.
Yeah, that's okay.
Unreal, hey?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable
Woman. No.
Back in the kitchen, make me a sandwich.
Woohoo! Dang.
That's what I would say. That's what I would say if I was an actual patriarchy, advocate, which I'm not.
Actually, we're in a patriarchy.
I'm not. Yeah, that's right. The mysterious patriarchy out there.
Yes, because everybody talks about the patriarchy. But so
I did, however, take advantage of that night because I don't have many Tuesday nights off, and I went to see the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Oh, and how was that?
Well, it's interesting because I was sitting there waiting for the movie to start, thinking oh, okay, this is taking a while. So many commercials, so many ads, everything like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and I'm like, huh. Why is there ocean kind of why are we needing ocean? I'm like, what are they doing and all that? And also I see a whole bunch of mid 18th century kind of sailors. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? And all of a sudden I see them singing. I'm like, dear Lord, am I in a Little Mermaid? No!
No.
Theater. I went to the wrong theater. And so I got out immediately, dusted off the dust from my soles to my feet and make sure
it's not just from the soles of your feet, it's your very soul.
Everything. I had to a little take a shower after. But then I went finally to the right theater, which was across the way, and I missed the opening sequence of Guardians, and I was like, no, paid good money for this. Anyways, the rest of the movie was really good. If you're a fan of the Guardians 1 and 2, this one was actually really, really well done. I actually liked it. I think it's the only good Marvel movie left. I would say that.
Well, that's a good sign. It's a good sign. All right, so we do have a lot to talk about because, of course, we missed all the stuff from Tuesday. Yes, so let's jump right in to all the stuff that we missed, and let's start off with some funny before we go into the crazy.
That's right.
And I already went into the crazy, so let's watch a video about a library that hosts a controversial Satan story hour.
I have not seen this yet, so I'm excited.
Oh, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It brings back the Babylon Bee Satan character, which is always a hoot.
He's great.
So let's watch, and we'll see Danny's live reaction. Oh, and I changed the... I apologize. I need to change the output.
Way to go.
I know.
So we got...
There we go. I got the right output.
Every time we hold one of these story hours, I'm just so proud of our inclusive, accepting community. There's a lot of closed-minded people out there who don't like it when we bring in our fabulous, dazzling performers to read to the kids. But I think it's so important for them to learn to have an open mind at such an early age. Ooh, here comes our guest speaker now, kids. Now, they might look a little bit different than what we're used to, but let's remember to listen, learn, and accept them for who they really are.
Well, hello, children! I'm the Prince of Darkness Grim, and I'm here to read you a fun little story about love and tolerance. Oh, it's worth it. It's totally worth it. When I get to see the looks on their faces, you know, get to see them start questioning traditions and values they grew up with. When I get to see the wheels start to turn, like that Satan guy. You know, he isn't the devil like my parents told me he was, you know? Well, I mean, I am the devil, you know, I guess, but you guys, I mean, you know what I mean. Anyone know what this fabulous symbol means? You.
That represents God's promise.
Yo, you get out of here!
Yeah, we get our share of protesters. Every community has its bigots.
Yeah, those protester guys, you know, they're the worst. It's actually pretty hurtful, you know? I come all the way up here, and I give out of the evilness of my heart to share with these kids and convert them into dark disciples of the occult, damning their souls for eternity. But some people just have hate and bigotry in their hearts.
This is exactly why kids in our country can't read good. What are public libraries for? Not for opening young minds,
that was well done.
Reading, doing some arts and crafts, summoning the Lord of the Underworld to consume the souls of the young. Hail Satan, hail Satan, hail Satan, hail Satan, hail Satan.
Oh, come on, stop. Oh, stop.
All right.
Why'd you stop?
What? Oh no, I didn't pressure him at all. He said the cutest thing to me the other day, completely unprompted. He said, Mom, why are some people so blinded by their traditional social mores that they can't accept alternative lifestyles and differing points of view? Isn't that right, Hunter?
Can we go home now?
Don't ruin this for me, little.
Don't ruin this for me.
Oh, what kind of books do I like? Oh man, I'm an avid reader, of course, you know. I like Harry Potter, obviously, though I have not been a fan of J.K. Rowling as of late, you know. The Twilight series, 50 Shades, it's spacey. Girl, Wash Your Face, I love that. Stop Apologizing. Every op-ed by David French. The Da Vinci Code. That's a little old, but I like it still. Most of Stephen King's latter day works. Animorphs.
Were you just watching Babylon Bee?
Oh my god.
The funny thing is, like a lot of that stuff is absolutely on the nose. I watched a video of these parents that pretty obviously had completely indoctrinated their children. Their children are completely activists. They show up to the drag queen, like, you know, like degeneracy hour, and they're basically sitting around and like putting money into his like this drag queen's, like, you know, like underwear. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's wholesome.
Oh yeah, that's totally
the kind
normal
of stuff you want to see. Yeah. The whole idea is absurd. People are basically being convinced that absurdity is normal. That's the crazy part about this whole crazy thing. So Well done, Babylon Bee. As always, their videos are pretty epic. Normally, we always go into watching Freedom Tunes, but Freedom Babylon Bee kind of gives them a run for their money for sure. That was really good. Mm-hmm. So the big start is that drag queen story hours are basically becoming mainstream, and what I'm really sad about is that they're obviously the trajectory was always going to be normalize the safe versions, and then you basically move on from there to make them mandatory in schools, make them mandatory in all sorts of public spaces. Did you hear, Stephen, about how there's a federal judge who blocked a law?
Oh yeah,
in Tennessee. In Tennessee, he blocked a law that
and in Florida. There was another one that banned it. What was it? Because in Tennessee, blocked the law that was restricting drag shows for children, which is, of course, horrifying. Yeah, but we'll talk about that in a little bit with the rants and with the exposure.
Yeah.
And then what was the ban in Florida? The Florida ban was...
that was for... I know what you're talking about. That ban was over so that was a court case. 3 families said it is wrong for you to basically forbid our children from getting gender affirming care, and these are under 10 children. So that was a law that basically made it essentially illegal for people to get gender affirming care, quote unquote. And the federal judge basically decided he basically said let's just state the obvious. Was it
gender identity exists? Yeah. And then he said in his 44-page ruling, calling the decision to pursue the ban on puberty blockers and hormonal treatment a political decision and not a legitimate state interest.
What a garbage
it's
ruling.
For children, you absolute psychopath. Absolute psychopath.
He's just basically an activist pretending to be a judge.
Yes. So it's unfortunately quite common in a lot of these places, especially here in Canada, and we'll go into that later. But for now, let's have a little more humor. So let's go into the actual This Week in Satire story. Trudeau swears this black stuff on his face is from the wildfire smoke.
Of course he does.
So Canadian PM Justin Trudeau is once again finding himself at the center of controversy after he made an appearance in what appeared to be blackface again. Trudeau maintains, however, that the black pigment on his face is just ash from all that wildfire smoke. I actually cannot, I have never been able to nail down a Justin Trudeau voice.
Justin Trudeau voice?
So I'm just going to go really,
you have to sound incredibly douchey.
You do.
Every word that comes out of your mouth has to be so incredibly pretentious and full of yourself.
I guess I could try the Freedom Tunes Justin Trudeau voice.
Oh yeah, the one he did for the Freedom Convoy?
The Freedom Convoy. Stop! Stop laughing, guys! This is just ashes and stuff. I definitely didn't spread a large amount of my face in solidarity with BIPOC men and women. We're mixing. Said the stammering prime. Okay. Yeah, you go for it.
Okay, let me go for it. Stop laughing, guys. This is just ashes and stuff. I definitely didn't spread a large amount of it on my face in solidarity with BIPOC men and Wixon. That's how he talks. He basically it's almost like it's all about enunciation, and he just sounds incredibly arrogant.
Yes,
it's incredible. Yeah,
I would never do something like that because I'm not a racist. I'm an anti-racist. Word to your mother.
There you go. That's exactly what he sounds like when he makes speeches.
Critics contested that even though thousands of Canadian citizens are affected by the wildfires tearing through the countryside, only Trudeau's face seems to be constantly covered in a large amount of black soot.
It's true.
He's even wearing a large afro wig for some reason, said Conservative Pierre Poilievre. I'm not sure what that has to do with the fires. My critics are being ridiculous. My beautiful, dark complexion is simply an unfortunate coincidence, said Trudeau. Namaste.
You forgot a couple important things.
Oh,
you forgot the ums and ahs that are so big in all of his speeches.
My beautiful dark complexion is simply an unfortunate coincidence.
There you go. Now you're nailing it.
Namaste. At publishing time, Trudeau had donned a turban for additional protection from the flames.
It's funny because it's true.
It's funny because it's true. So, yep, that's just part of the interesting things that are happening this week in Satire. But a few more things before we start talking about the serious stuff. Michael Knowles.
This video is hilarious.
It's so funny. And it actually accurately describes the current state of Canada. So enjoy, everyone.
Try not to laugh, challenge right here.
Oh, yes.
Try not to laugh.
Sir, I identify as a woman. Get on the ground, you misgendering people. Sir, put your hands behind your back right now. Sir. No. I'm a woman. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to put your hands behind your back. Yep. Also, get that man right there. Man. I meant to say woman. That's what I meant to say. Identify as a thing. Yep. Officer, get that person. Person? No.
No.
I now identify as a chair. Officer, get.
The best part of the video is the complete lack of production value. He didn't even get a fake gun to be holding, because that's the whole point. You don't need to have a gun. You don't need to have a costume. You don't need to change your voice. You don't need to do anything. You can just be whatever you want.
Excuse me.
That's right.
So funny.
The best part about that video is the kids' faces.
Yeah.
The way he makes the faces, it's like ooh, ooh, like close-ups and all that. It is unbelievably funny. I was so
good.
Impressed when I saw that one. And he does such a great job of this is what, when I think about TikTok, I'm like, this is the stuff that actually makes TikTok worth watching. Because I think it's a TikTok video, right?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
He did a fantastic job. So there you go, guys. I just put it in the YouTube link for you. Go and share it and watch it. And this shows like there's some really brilliant people out there. This is better than anything on late night, like those late night comedies. Anything that they've put out is nowhere near as funny as that video was. It was freaking hilarious. I watched it like 10 times. And I was laughing every time. Well done to that kid, whoever he is. Yeah. But speaking of something that was freaking hilarious this week, guess what happened to the girls, the U.S. women's national soccer team, Steven?
They trash talked the boys.
Yeah, and they got absolutely annihilated. So, I mean, the whole, women are every bit as good as men, and if not better. That kind of rhetoric got annihilated this week. So, take it away, Steve.
Yep. Okay, so former women's soccer players lose 12-0 to a bunch of older British dudes in 40 minutes.
It's true.
Former players of the United States women's national soccer team, the reigning World Cup champs, decided to play an independent soccer tournament in North Carolina and faced off against Wrexham, a club from Wales owned by Ryan Reynolds. A bunch of older dudes, and it went exactly like you'd expect. Here's how it started.
Messages, ready? This message is for Ryan Reynolds and Rob Macklin. 1, you should be here right now with your squad. 2, your team about to go down in North Carolina.
That is the big talk, I'd say.
Yeah.
By the way, this is not the so this is not like all of the players of the current national women's team, but these are like some of them are current, some of them are former. A decent amount of the women's team is there, so it's not like they're like all amateurs. So, like a lot of these players are like legitimately the women, like women from like the national team. So these are professional soccer players. Okay, so
what's the worst that could happen? We lose 16-0 to Wrexham. We don't care because we're living. We're being bold. We're being brave.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, wait, play that
Heather,
video.
What's going on over here? You guys look at this. They're fraternizing with the enemy. I saw you talking with Mark Howard. But look, hey, I love that you guys are here, that you're playing, that this is all women. Maybe not the scoreline you were wanting to see, but what's your perspective on what's happening?
Because it was terrible.
Listen, we're super proud. We're so happy to be here. At this
super
event.
proud of
Hopefully
our horrible.
Just go for it. Just live, right? And
yes.
What's the worst thing that can happen? We lose 16-0 to Wrexham.
Embarrass yourself.
We don't
horribly.
care because we're living, we're being bold, we're being brave. and we're having a lot of fun. Honestly, the U.S. has really warmed to Wrexham, obviously, after what Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have done. And we know that America loves the U.S. women's national team. So here we have two amazing products.
They really don't.
American soccer fans are getting behind.
Not particularly.
And, yeah, it's just a...
Yeah.
So just a little context. So the tournament, the way it works is it's like the grand prize is $1 billion. So whoever wins gets $1 million. Now this tournament is unique in the fact that it's open to anybody, and some of the teams are just men. Some of the teams are like mixed, and then like this team is unique in that it is the only all women's team.
Yes.
And so here the question that lay before them was, are women just as good as men? Like the age-old question, right? And to show whether or not what the answer to that question, I want you to take the YouTube video, Stephen, and show us what actually happened. So if you haven't seen this is what actually happened in that tournament.
Yep. It's sad to watch.
And by the way, we're not trying
totally
to
deserved.
We're
it's just showcasing the clear
differential.
Shows
the obvious, like, you know.
Here we go.
It's a transition. Here is the counter again, the step through the shot, another shot, and there it is! Game over, Sayward FC, as Brendan Lambie scores the game winner.
5-0.
5-0 which in any like normal soccer match, I think that would be a horrible like
being
under
so much pressure.
That's devastating.
If you're the U.S. women's
team, that's a horrible blowout in any professional like soccer.
So lucky.
Fascinating. Yeah, this one was brutal.
Here's a turnover. Jarvis, there it is. Game over.
By the way, Steve, 12-0. By the way, I watched the extended highlights of that game of the U.S. women versus Wrexham. I watched the extended highlights. I will say this: the goalkeeper was literally standing on her head trying to, like, she made a lot of amazing saves.
Oh, really?
That game could easily have been 25-0. And she made so many amazing saves.
Well, like, they lost 12-0, but the game ended early.
Yes, it was 40 minutes.
It was 40 minutes instead of 90.
Anybody who knows the soccer games go to 90.
Yeah.
They basically
this was a mercy rule.
This is a mercy rule. They mercied the women because it was so horrible. Wow. And the men who were actually pulling off these this like embarrassing, like, you know, annihilation, they were actually not celebrating their goals.
No.
They felt bad. They were like, okay, what do we do? Like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
like, this is okay. So growing up in small town soccer,
maybe you can play in the background while we talk about it.
Small town soccer is not exceptionally competitive.
It's the U.S. women,
and we would beat teams like this. It would be 8, 9, 12-0, because there was one year which we had like a stacked team. They put all the best players in the town on one team. Oh no! Oh no!
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the kind of stuff which you would pull in like under 9 soccer.
Coming in here.
Yeah.
What a treat put on for these two.
Well, it's like I remember seeing. I don't know if you can turn the volume off of the YouTube video. But I can still hear it.
Yeah.
But the main thing is like I've seen so many videos of like interviews of like, you know, political commentators and all that, and they talk about this, and they say like it's like, well, the women are just as good as the men. It's like no they're not. And if you're a man actually discussing it, you're basically like you're treated like you're some horrible judgmental, like, you know, prejudiced person. It's like, no, it's not even. It shouldn't even be controversial. It's like I think that video. By the way, I encourage everyone to watch that video on your own time. That guy does an amazing job of basically covering it,
okay.
And he basically like does it. Hey, Tori.
You say goodnight to Danny.
Good night.
Hi. Night, Tori.
Okay. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
What a little cutie. Oh yeah. So one of the things he shows in that video is and I didn't know this. Like I was like so amazed when he showed it. He talked about okay. So I'll ask you, Stephen. Do you know what the world record for women's sprint in the 100 meter is? What the world the world record
I would
for
guess
that was back in 98.
13.
No, 10.49.
Okay.
Okay. 10.49 is the world record, the fastest ever woman to ever run the 100 meter. Her time was 10.49. No woman has beat that yet. Guess how many men have beaten that time in professional competition, Stephen? How many men are ahead of her in that world record? Give me a number.
436.
7,000.
Oh my gosh.
7,000 men have running times that were officially faster than the world record holder for like women's sprint.
Yeah.
Like I saw that stat and I was just like,
it's unbelievable.
How is
crazy.
this even a question? Right? And so like that what happened like recently with Wrexham with this whole tournament was really helpful because we've seen like the U.S. women's team lose to like an under 15 squad, FC Dallas, in a friendly competition. People could say like, oh, it was just a kind of a scrimmage. It wasn't really serious. This one, like, yeah, you can't really make that case anymore. You could tell like the women were being absolutely annihilated. They didn't even stand a chance. The guys were literally like dancing circles around them. And it's not like we're not mocking them. We're talking about like that. This is not controversial. Women are massively outmatched when they are like against like like men of like equivalent skills and talents. I mean, sure, if you and I and a team of like like total amateurs played them, yeah, we'd probably suck.
Yes.
But when they play like somewhat equivalent skills, but a lot of these men are retired, like older, like
40 plus.
40 plus. I'm like, yeah, you should be running circles around them. They absolutely annihilate them. So yeah, crazy.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then final. Okay.
I think they're over 40. I don't think they're all over 40.
The Wrexham team. No, I believe it stated that the Wrexham team was like an above 40 team.
Yeah. By the way, how do I pronounce that? Yod 5 Fed.
Yod 5 Fed.
Yod 5 Fed.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know because I was like, I don't know how to pronounce that name. But yeah, they're like, I don't think they're all over 40. I think them are. But I saw some of the players. I'm like, they didn't look over 40. They looked like maybe in their 30s or something like that. But still, like still quite a big thing. So anyway, so that's the women's team. And then one final story that we wanted to cover because this happened back in June, but they covered it on Timcast, and I was like, I never heard about this. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. Check out what happened to a church in where was this? Massachusetts, wasn't it? Yeah, in Boston. So yeah, like maybe take us into the story, Stephen, and shows what happened.
Sure. Okay, so from the New York Post, video captures historic church go up in flames, spire tumble after lightning strike. Dramatic video captured flames destroying a historic Massachusetts church, including its iconic steeple after came crashing down after the house of worship was struck by lightning Friday. Fiery footage shows fierce orange flames and thick black smoke consume the First Congregational Church in Spencer, Massachusetts, about 50 miles outside of Boston, starting at 3. Onlookers can be heard in the video screaming as the 1863 Protestant church spire tumbles, spewing more fire and smoke into the air. So this is the spire on fire, and then this is as it falls. So we can just quickly watch this video.
Go for it.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, is it just playing again?
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll watch it one more time. All right.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you saw, Stephen, but this story went viral on Twitter. And
I did not actually see that.
It went viral on Twitter for one reason. And it's because people were pointing out that this church was extremely woke, and a lot of people were saying like, hey, by the way, did you know that this super woke church got burnt to a crisp? And so it became such a big story, amazingly enough, that actually Snopes ended up having to cover the story. I don't know if you heard about that, Steve.
No, I
So
did
look
not
up,
actually.
like, just do a quick Google search right now. Go look up Snopes church hit by lightning.
Did a
There,
church
there.
that embraces LGBTQ burn after a lightning strike? First Congregational Church was indeed destroyed by lightning fire on just June 2nd.
Mm-hmm. So apparently Snopes, this was such a big story that and people were like sharing this idea that, like, by the way, God is smiting this church because they're like a super
After
woke
Pride Month celebration. Where's the Pride Month celebration?
Mm-hmm.
Well, where's the okay? Well, I don't see there any like.
Oh, they have like a portion of the service or something like that. But the controversy that happened was that people on Twitter were trying to point out that, like, hey, a woke church got hit by lightning and burned down.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, okay.
This is the Spencer Church Facebook page.
Okay.
So their photos. I don't see anything for Pride Month on their pictures. So
I know. Okay,
it could be
I know
from
that,
last year.
I know that the Snopes was pointing it out. Like they didn't actually.
Oh,
like,
here.
What do you got?
This is from June 22nd of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So let's like not
makes sense.
There
Because,
be
like,
authentically you.
Yep, it makes sense because a lot of churches try to hide their LGBT
okay.
athletes.
Yeah, this is pretty obvious now.
Yeah, right
equality,
there, like,
respect, pride. Yep.
Mm-hmm,
No,
mm-hmm.
woke church.
Yep. Woke.
What
yeah,
happens
like,
to the woke
danger,
church?
Danger, Will.
Smite!
Danger. So the funny thing about this is that, okay, people were pointing out something like, more of a interesting kind of like, coincidence, right? They'll be like, it's kind of like the George Floyd mural. Like, you know about that, Stephen.
Oh, of course.
The George Floyd mural. They made like the Saint George kind of mural somewhere, and the whole thing was like little vaporized by a lightning strike in the most bizarre circumstances ever, to the point where it's like, that seems almost way too good to be true. The only thing that was destroyed was the picture and the mural. Everything else was untouched, and it was not on a during a lightning strike storm. It was like a very sunny day and all that when it got struck. So I thought it was really interesting when I saw that. I'm like, huh, how about that? It's kind of like that. Do you know who Brendan Robertson is, Stephen?
Yes.
Okay.
Michael Knowles actually addressed him like a couple weeks ago.
He did.
Yes,
so anybody who doesn't know, Brendan Robertson is a
heretic.
He's a full on, but he's an LGBT affirming, so-called priest or preacher who claims to be an expert in in the Bible, but really isn't. But he was actually doing a sermon, and there's a video of it where he's speaking, and all of a sudden there's like a thunder hits, and the lights go off for like a couple seconds, and he comes back. He's like, "That was not God trying to smite me for anything. Nobody make any act like things like that." And I was like, "I'm like, you should probably think twice if you have a gigantic lightning strike and thunder that comes down, throwing out the power. You should really maybe rethink your approach." So, so it's crazy. It's crazy. I always find these stories interesting. The fact that Snopes felt they had the need to prove that we can tell you safely that God is not smiting LGBT churches. There's no evidence of that. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Go back to your leftist hellhole people.
Mm-hmm.
That was so dumb. Yeah, I heard about that striker who scored 4 goals in that game was over 46 years old. He was. I saw the goals. They were good goals. The women were just. They had nothing. They could not stop them. It was like an adult playing against a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like. It was so sad to watch.
Yep.
Unreal. Anyway, Stephen, take us away into the.
Yep. Let's go to the next one. Yes. Let's go to the rant of the week.
Rant it up.
Studio.
Red alert.
All right, so the rant of the week. Let's talk about this Edmonton school teacher lambasts Muslim students for skipping Pride events. And I addressed this, like, I had people talking about this with me on Twitter.
I think it's lambasted, not lambast. Lambasted.
Oh. No, it's lambasts.
Lambasted. I don't know. You guys
fact check in real time.
Lambasted. Because you got lambasted.
Okay, here we go.
Lambasted.
Ooh.
Okay,
hold on. Lambasts. Third person present. Okay. I want to pronounce that. I want to pronounce lambasts.
Okay. Can you pronounce it?
Well, no, because it's lambast is the singular with an E.
Okay.
But E is with an A is not here, dictionary.com.
Bunny trail.
Hang on, wait. I will be proven right. Literally it says also lambast, but it won't pronounce lambast.
Because they probably
have lambasted.
Yeah, lambasted. Called it.
Okay, hold on. Lambasted. They won't pronounce They won't pronounce.
You will not be proven right today, sir.
I will.
Not today.
I'll find it eventually.
Some other day.
Anyways, so teacher at Londonderry School in Edmonton took it upon herself to blast Muslim students in the class about skipping Pride events, with a student recorded the rants and put it on the internet. Quote, "Do you think it's acceptable to not show up because you think there are some Pride activities going on in the school?" Teacher asked Muslim students in the rants. So here's the video. Enjoy. It's
nasty.
It's nasty. I don't know why it takes a while to load, so I'm not sure about that.
Well, I'll tell you, you were out to lunch. If you think it's acceptable to not show up because you think there's some Pride activities going on at school, right? Oh, that's fine. You know, because I'm going to show my opinion by hanging out at the mall. But meanwhile, all of those kids who are, involved in, say, the Gay Street Alliance or whatever, I don't even know if we have that anymore in our school, they're here when we did Ramadan for Lion Time, and they're showing respect in the class for your religion, right, for your beliefs. It goes two ways. If you want to be respected for who you are, if you don't want to suffer prejudice for your religion, your color of skin, your whatever, then you better give it back to people who are different from you. That's how it works. It's an exchange.
Nope, doesn't work that way.
And it isn't like that in all countries. As I told you, in Uganda, literally, if they think you're gay, they will execute you.
Incorrect.
Lies.
If you believe that kind of thing, then you
Only
don't
if you're preying
belong
on children.
here.
Yeah.
Because that is not what Canada believes. We believe in freedom. We believe that people can marry whomever they want.
Nope.
That is in the law. And if you don't think that should be the law, you can't be Canadian. You don't belong here. And I mean it. I really mean it. And
Very
it's not
tolerant.
a joke, Mansoor.
Super tolerant.
I said back and forth. You want it, you got to give it.
Not gonna happen.
That's not how that works.
That teacher is absolutely crazy.
Oh, absolutely off the wall nuts.
Let me make one point about that. Okay. So she said, it's two ways. Like, people want to respect. Okay. If you're having a Ramadan event at your school and a Christian student opts not to attend because it's Ramadan and it's not their religion, or a Jehovah's Witness student, or a Sikh student, or a Hindu student, I'd be like, that's perfectly fine. You're promoting something that is against their beliefs. People have the right to be like, I actually don't want to be part of that. not because I hate the people, but because I disagree with the ideology that's being promoted and being taught. I think that's perfectly fine. The fact that, and by the way, teachers like her, people like by the way, she's a full-on ideologue. She believes completely in the cult because she's part of a cult, and her cult is the LGBT rainbow cult. Okay, that's actually like legitimately a thing. They, in her view, it is completely unacceptable for anyone to disagree with her religion. It's like you cannot even like it's like you. It's not even that you can't even say. You can't even think differently than she does. That is how aggressively intolerant her side is. Like if I meet you and I'm a Christian and like you disagree with Christianity, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. You disagree with Christianity. But now let's take that, and in her view, it's like, no, you can't even
disagree.
You can't even disagree. You have to actually actively participate and support and clap. That is the intolerance that teachers like that promote. And by the way, the problem that is going on in schools is that she has a captive audience. The children are stuck there. They don't have the choice of
she's not just lambasting them for disagreeing. They're just like, okay, we disagree. We're just not going to participate.
Yeah.
Like that's what she's arguing. She's not saying that they're not going to protest it. They're not going to shout it down. They're not going to stop it from happening. They're just not going to show up. And she's like, no. You can't do that. You cannot have an oppositional opinion. And it's not just about having an oppositional opinion. You cannot stay silent. You must go rah-rah for the common thing, for the modern thing. You must agree with me. And if you don't, I'm going to lambast you. I'm going to attack you in front of your peers. And I will try as hard as I can to force you to agree with my agenda.
You need to wear the ribbon.
Propaganda at its very finest.
You need to wear the ribbon. You know that's from, right?
Oh, of course. We've watched it several times on the show.
You went totally dead silent, and I was like, oh, the ribbon. Come on, the ribbon.
The ribbon.
Yeah. So the problem here is that, okay, I was listening to like Tim Cash today. They were talking to a guy, or it was from last night's episode, but they were talking to a guy who used to work in FBI, in the FBI and all that, and he had a lot of insights into the inner workings of pedophile networks. And he basically said that one of the problems is that so many of these, like, pedophiles and all these pedophile networks and all these aggressive people who are trying to go after kids are emboldened because of the new power that they've been given. Okay? And that translates into teachers like her who are massive ideologues. These are intolerant, hateful, and very like angrily like spiteful people who are and she feels she can like literally she can verbally assault these students who she has a responsibility to treat them with respect because she's an authority figure. But no. I'm a teacher. I'm insulated. I'm going to be protected by my superintendent, by my school board, by everyone around me because I am a privileged. I'm speaking the privileged message. Anybody who disagrees with me, I can say whatever the heck I want, and I'm never going to face any kind of repercussions for my actions. And this is basically like an abuse of power. I know this. I used to be in youth group. Okay. I used to be a youth group leader. I know that you cannot go to a kid and literally yell at them. You can't because you are an authority figure. Oh. You cannot just yell at them. What's going on?
Okay, hang on. Well, you might want to just quickly reset your camera. Because it's frozen on my end.
Minecraft just kind of...
Did it crash?
Yeah, it crashed, yeah.
Okay, do you want me to reset it?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so I'll end the call and quickly restart it. And for those who are... It's not fascist. We just call it... It's called TrueConf, but we call it Minecraft because
it's an inside joke. It's an inside... Like, seriously,
it's just a dumb name.
It's a dumb, like,
Oh, did you not get my invite?
No, it didn't come through.
I will send another one.
Okay. Okay, I'm back and
coming through.
There it is.
Okay.
Should be good.
I gotta turn on your video.
Oh. Oh, okay. I know what's going on. Hold on. Let me turn it off here.
Danny will sort things out. Give it a minute. It's okay.
Okay.
What happens sometimes?
No, my video doesn't want to come on here. Hold on a sec.
Oh, odd.
On the conference call, like on the Minecraft or TrueConf.
Yeah.
I see the video, but it's not coming through on the actual podcast for some reason. Let me like completely end the thing and start over.
Yeah, my bad, everybody. So I will continue. I'll kind of continue this. So like we know that this is something which is out there, and like the funny thing is everybody talks about it's like, well, like you can compare this. Like if this was a Christian school and doing this and calling out somebody who was participating in Pride, then it'd be lambasted across the internet. If this was a Muslim school calling out someone who was participating in Pride, then it would be kind of silenced. It's actually very interesting that this is about Muslims, because usually, of course, you do not have interactions that have Muslim students get involved in these sort of interactions and these sort of affairs, because Muslims are protected by the modern kind of woke liberal class. So this is a new thing. And I think that in regards to kind of the Pride, the LGBTQIA, that they will start to go after the Muslims as well as the Christians and those of us in the right wing, because in regards to wokeness, in regards to the LGBTQ, the Muslims are 100% with us. And in truth, they actually go quite a bit further than we do, because while we are like, okay, well, we disagree with your lifestyle choices. We did like this and this and this, but if you're choosing to do it and you're not kind of advocating to children, if you're not trying to brainwash people, then like we're not going to ban it. We're not going to make it illegal, especially here in North America. Mm-hmm. Like I think, of course, we should be talking about it and saying that it's wrong and trying actively not to enable it. But to encourage people that they still have a choice, that they still have an out, and they can escape from this. But this is something in which, like Muslims and Islam, if you're in a country that has Sharia law and you're caught participating in acts of homosexuality, like she calls out Uganda, and it's like, well, Uganda, if they catch you participating in the act of homosexuality, they will fine you severely or they'll put you in jail. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. And then if you are having homosexual sex with a child, or if you are raping someone or transferring HIV, then they will also stop that and they'll execute you.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, okay, I can go along with that. That's fine.
I can be on board with that, because like I think like, okay, there's some certain crimes that are so heinous,
yes,
that they do deserve the death
penalty. Actions against the child. And of course, like this is interesting. This is interesting territory, because of course, like it's this sort of material that got us our first 30-day ban from Twitch, because we talked about a homosexual couple that was doing very inappropriate things and diddling little boys and started a pedophile ring, and
that was a news story. Yeah.
Twitch did not like the fact that I suggested that such individuals,
watch your language here,
should be facing serious, perhaps even capital punishment.
Some permanent consequences.
Yes, permanent consequences. That's a good way of referring to it.
Yeah.
So, like this is very common practice in Muslim countries. You'll be thrown off of buildings. You'll be stoned. Like this is not uncommon. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know whether this is going to be a modern kind of movement that Muslims are going to join with us against the LGBTQ. But I think in Western society, a lot of Muslims are just kind of like, don't mess with me, and I'll let the Christians fight their battle and we'll just kind of stay silent.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because like Muslims have been the most active in fighting this. There's been like Dearborn.
Oh yes,
like a major
they have been very active
in the UK,
in parts of the UK,
Canada,
and the US.
Canada as well. There's been a lot of Muslims fighting in Canada. But here's another story that shows you that when the shoe's on the other foot, Suddenly, it's permissible to attack people.
Mhm.
This has always been the case. Permissible to attack people that are on the Christian side, like these are
Yes.
Armenian Christians. And by the way, if there's anybody who can actually legitimately say that they were victims of a genocide,
It's Armenians.
because they were part of like one of the biggest genocides
Mhm.
in modern history.
Yeah. Okay. So, from the Daily Signal, several fights broke out between Antifa and parental rights activists Tuesday night outside of the Glendale Unified School District's administration building in Glendale, California. During a school board meeting, law enforcement arrested 3 individuals amid the mayhem after the protest exceeded the bounds of peaceful assembly, the Glendale Police Department announced on Tuesday night. Following the Glendale School Board's decision to incorporate LGBTQ+ pride festivals and celebrations into June school days, dozens of parents pulled students from the classroom, with some elementary schools seeing only 40% of students show up for class on June 2nd. Additional documents revealed that Glendale staff have attempted to incorporate LGBTQ+ materials and ideology to other curriculum. One assistant principal even told staff that teach children that every person is by default queer and socialist. Parents
By default?
by default.
Wow.
Parents from the traditionally conservative Armenian Hispanic communities plan to protest the board's decisions.
Yeah.
And Antifa Southern California called for activists to counter-protest these parents, whom they labeled hate groups.
Of course.
Several parents... Yep. You were saying?
Oh, no. It's amazing to me that like the big news on Twitter was like the fight that broke out between like the two groups. But again, context is huge, because what always happens, the Antifa, the BLM, the LGBT like terrorists, because they are terrorists.
Oh, yeah, totally terrorists.
They are terrorists. They started the violence. And then, of course, like the media plays cover for them and says like, oh, here we go. The protesters, which are like the actual peaceful ones. Oh, the protesters came up and now there's been fights. It's like, well, maybe it's because the Antifa people launched it. So I don't know if you can show the video from that the fights. It's just below there.
Sure.
The YouTube video, I think it is. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, it's
like,
absolutely nuts.
I'm so glad that like parents are all over the country, all over the US are standing up and saying like, yeah, we've had enough of this crap.
Yeah. So
this
like
video.
This is some aerial footage.
So of course the police are all over it. They're like, like delving in, trying to like, break up the fights and all that kind of stuff.
This is just overhead. There's better footage. There's better footage at the post millennial.
Oh, okay.
Nope, that's not the right article. That's
no,
from May 15th.
Oh, no, wait. Go on to the article. Just underneath where it says the tweet by Sergio Olmos.
Oh yeah, there it is. Okay,
there it is, right there.
Okay,
yeah, right there.
Like just going crazy. Do not engage. Yeah, well, Antifa started this,
A little too late.
Antifa just, the police were basically just like stopping the parents because,
of course,
Antifa will start fights, but Antifa doesn't. Antifa only finishes fights when the police break it up.
Yeah, basically.
If the police are there, Antifa gets their ass kicked.
Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, most police departments.
They're super woke.
Well, it's because they're basically given rules.
I'm gonna show this other clip. I'm gonna move the YO.
Sure, go for it.
Because this is a good one. So, at a pride parade, this was just like this week.
You need to put it on the screen.
Yeah, I just moved it.
Okay.
So, U.S. man arrested for disorderly conduct after reciting Bible verses at pride events. Mm-hmm. So, Antifa shows up at a school board meeting where parents are protesting brainwashing students and having boys and girls change rooms and inappropriate conduct and trying to propagandize little children because children can't consent to what they're being taught. But this is what happens when it's the other way around.
Yeah.
They're having a pride parade, and he was reading excerpts from the Bible aloud. He was identified as Damon Atkins, stood near the parade, started reading from 1 Corinthians 14:33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints read the verse. However, just as Atkins was reading the phrase, he was arrested by police officers stationed nearby.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Here's the video. This is absolutely crazy. And then watch what they do afterwards. I'm glad that they had captions.
This is public property. Respect. Oh, I'm respecting it. Let them have their day. You know who's cheering for us?
Let them have their day.
So you do you, and I'm going to do me. This is public property. You. God is not. That's it. Grab this one, brother.
Getting this on film.
Can I give him my bag while stuff's in?
Nope.
I'm going to need you to go to 128 North.
And they're clapping.
Who's applauding? Yeah, who's applauding?
They're applauding arresting someone for disagreement.
Of course they are.
I cannot believe I'm watching this.
Because the people who are on the other side are the actual intolerant people, right?
Yep.
Totally the intolerant. By the way,
like this is something like if here I've been like the LGBTQ mob always tells me they're like, oh, like you wouldn't be happy if we showed up to protest your church. I'm like, you know what we would do if you actually showed up to protest our church?
Mm-hmm.
We'd take you off to the side so that the people who wouldn't want to have their service disrupted, we'd do exactly the same thing we did at Fairview.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have the people that didn't want their service to be disrupted will go over one way, and the people that want to talk to them, the people that want to actually address them.
Yeah.
Like the people that were celebrating, the people that came to Fairview to celebrate Pastor Tim's arrest.
Yeah.
We didn't call for them, like we didn't accost them, we didn't mock them, we didn't attack them.
No.
They were laughing and they were mocking and they were accosting us, but we wanted to try and convert them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want to talk to them. We want to have these conversations. But the left, the modern LGBTQ, they want to try and push this because they value censorship over having conversations.
They're a cult. They're the most powerful
it's a
cult in America. They're the most, and Canada, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They're the most powerful cult. It's the most incredible thing to me that people don't really see. I guess if you're a low information kind of person, you're not going to see this. It's incredible to me that these people have unbelievable power to ruin and destroy people's lives. They can act in overtly criminal ways. They can harm you. They can kick you. They can spit on you. All that kind of stuff. Never face any consequences. And yet they have the audacity to claim that they're the victims. And they cry out like, "Oh, everyone's against us," and "Oh my gosh, we're being persecuted." And like, it's incredible. Like you have to be, and I'll say this like like very bluntly, you have to be very stupid, very unintelligent to believe that. Like you really have to be an unintelligent person to actually believe that these people are like you may support their cause, you may even agree with them and their views and all that kind of stuff, but you have to be like almost like either like mentally unstable or intentionally purposefully ignorant not to see that these are not victims. These are not people who are actually victimized. They always claim they're cry bullies. That's what they always do, right? So the whole idea here with these three stories that we just covered is that there's a very, very obvious double standard in every one of these examples. The parents are treated as like the bullies, even though they're the ones that actually have a vested interest in the children in schools. The people who showed up at that protest, that Armenian parents protest,
they don't care about those kids.
They don't even have a vested interest. None of them. I can guarantee you. I'd almost be willing to put money on it that none of those Antifa idiots who showed up had any children in those schools. I would be shocked if any of them did, because Antifa are not they're not people who care. They're people who want to intimidate people. They're terrorists, right? So they don't have any vested interest.
Yep.
So it's incredible to me that people believe the lie that these people are victims, because they're not. No. But that is the trajectory, and we have to remember it is getting worse, and they're getting more bold and more aggressive. So keep that in mind as we go forward, because they are getting more bold, and unfortunately, that also means that children are going to be far easier prey for the many people that are very predatory within these movements. By the way,
yeah, the children would become far easier prey if Christians actually believe that there is a repercussion for standing up for their faith, for standing up and doing what's right. Then we'll see how many real Christians there are in Canada, and it won't be shocking for kind of a lot of us who are like, well, duh, we saw this. But for many people who are like, oh yes, like the churches are doing so well here in Canada, I'm like, no, they're not.
No, they're not.
You have the slightest pressure on them, and the churches here in Canada will collapse.
Yeah. By the way, I went after hockey on Monday, so Monday night. I thought you were going to come. I figured.
No, okay.
But
I regret this, but I had to go to a union meeting, and I was like, my life is ending.
You would have liked it. Anyways, after floor hockey, we went out to get some wings, and it was funny. I was telling my former roommate Chad about it, and I was like, it's interesting. Like, I had a conversation with a whole bunch of guys, nice guys, very easygoing. I really salt of the earth kind of guys, but I was like shocked at some of their positions on a lot of things. Including, and I mean, like, there's a lot of things that we have very differing opinions. Sometimes some of the opinions I thought were like a little bit like that's like bordering on like completely unorthodox kind of positions. But one of the things that they kept arguing is that, like, they're like, oh, Christians should not be, they shouldn't go out there and be big meanie heads. Like, they didn't say that, but essentially they're saying Christians have to be nice, and that we can't call out evil, and like in the way that we're doing and all that. I'm like, you guys criticize Pastor Arthur, Pastor Derek, none of whom even though none of you have met him. You're going by what you hear in the media or whatever news and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, I'll say this. Whether or not you agree with their methods or their approach, or even how they actually, go about it, I will say this. They're actually putting their money where their mouth is. They're actually going out there and actually, like, being willing to go to jail, which takes courage, and going through with it. How many of you and how many of your church leaders, which you say are these like super amazing, like, holy and highly integral men, how come none of them have actually spoken out publicly about this? And how come none of them were ever at any of the protests? Like, that's the big thing I kind of said. I'm like, you talk a big game about how, like, oh, these are bad dudes who are these Christians who are giving us a bad name. I'm like, okay, then send your own preachers out there to actually speak out. Not why not? And they always
because they'll just be like, oh no, like I'd rather just stay silent in the face of this. Well, no, but that's what their actions.
Like, it's about the gospel, Stephen. It's about the gospel, Stephen.
Oh, I know.
The gospel is not about
well, then go into those who will spew hate, and instead of putting coals on, like, they'll put coals on their head by showing them love. Sure. They're like, no. Like, even, like, I remember, like, talking to our former pastor was just like, oh yes, like, I went to this conference and LGBTQ activists were like threatening to firebomb it, but we can't condemn them. We can't say anything negative about that. And I'm like,
I remember you told me that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know. I was like, what? Yeah, because Jesus, it's like Jesus never condemned anybody. Oh, except Bethsaida and Jorasim and, like, even the city of Jerusalem and the Pharisees and Herod and, like, do I need to go on? Like, I was just like,
oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Just like, right? the seeker sensitive gospel has diluted the church so much so that they will be utterly silent in the face of evil. And then when that evil comes for them, they'll be panicking. They'll either be panicking because they're like, oh my gosh, we never saw this coming.
No, there'll be wallflowers, which always happens.
Well, okay, no, like the church will split. Yeah. There'll be the wallflowers.
They'll go into hiding.
Yes. And then there'll be those who go into hiding because they're like, oh, we never saw this coming. Like, we couldn't prepare for this. It's like, well, we tried to warn you over and over and over again. And now they've come for you. And because you've basically said, it's like, oh, no, churches, like, we can't become political. We can't even mention political things. Then, yep, you're going to go underground.
Yep.
And there'll be no voice for you, and Canada will silence you without a second thought.
Well,
because
you have to,
we're run by an authoritarian.
You have to remember, like, that all throughout Scripture, like, the theme is always there that God is not part of God's call on us as believers is that we have to, along with all the many other things, including love and charity and mercy and all that kind of stuff, one of the things that God always expects of his people is that they're willing to call out evil.
Yep.
That is all throughout the scripture. And I'm like, you're giving a very narrow view of what it is like. But let's move on to the next segment, which is the
Big Brother, Where Art Thou?
That's right. Big Brother, Where Art Thou? Go first, Steven.
Alrighty. No problem. All right. So, Big Brother, you
want to really like that. I like that stinger. Actually,
the stinger, the opening,
it's really good.
Yeah, it's
really
good. So, the regime strikes back. On same day, document is released that shows Joe Biden taking $5 million bribe from Ukraine. Biden DOJ announces Trump's federal indictment on junk charges. Yes. I said you're not getting the $1 billion. Which is exactly what he said. You can go back and watch the video. It's like how this wasn't like a mainstream thing because of how he said that. It's like, well, that's clearly openly corrupt and he should have been impeached on that alone.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you don't have and it's not about whether or not you have laws, it's whether or not they're applied.
You apply them equally.
Okay. And this is the problem, is that we clearly have laws on the books against corruption, against bribery, against all these kind of things. The problem isn't that we don't have laws. The problem is that the Biden family, including Hunter Biden, including Joe Biden, who is as corrupt as they come, are never like there's not even so on the Democrat side. There's never even the suggestion that they'd ever be investigated or even God forbid like prosecuted for any of their crimes. And on the Republican side, or like the conservative side, we just basically always come to the conclusion like, well, nothing will happen because we know that the system is completely like corrupt and totally like enforces things one way. So this story is just bananas, like the kind of stuff that they that happened. So yeah, I don't know if you want to go into the story itself, Steve.
Yeah, I'm just putting up a tweet about it.
Okay. I will say one thing, one thing that did strike me about this $5 million bribe from Ukraine kind of story is it's amazing to me. There's the Durham report, which came out about Trump, basically made it completely undeniable that the whole idea of like the Russia collusion and that Trump was like a foreign agent or whatever working with the Russian government, that was a completely made up false story. It had no evidence whatsoever, and yet everyone ran with it. Everyone, they're all liars, every single one of them, from the media to the government officials to AOC to everyone. They're all freaking liars, right? And yet the things that they have on Joe Biden are so incredibly damning. It's like you have literally a golden case right in front of you. This would be a slam dunk for any prosecutor worth his salt. Could easily like put Hunter Biden in jail, which I hate to say, he does deserve to go to jail. Not because I just generally hate the guy. It's because he is a criminal. He has done tons of illegal things. He deserves to go to jail. And unfortunately, Joe Biden himself is also a full-fledged criminal. Now you have to remember that part of the reason why this thing came out, this Trump's federal indictment came out, is because they're trying to distract you from what happened with Biden. They're like, oh, Biden is completely potentially got bribed by a foreign government. Oh, well, you know what? We're gonna shift the focus onto Trump and be like, Trump is a bad boy, and that's the story. This is how completely corrupt the system is. They don't even care at how openly obvious their corruption really is. That's the thing I find like the craziest thing about this. Now,
yep. All right,
For
Before we jump in?
Can you switch up the stories from Gateway Pundit to Daily Mail? I want to show because of what I said. I want you to show the video of Joe Biden's
reacting?
response.
Okay, so from the Daily Mail, it's a bunch of malarkey. So here's the accusations.
I'm supposed to walk off the stage now. But wait.
The bribery allegation, Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
In your house?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of malarkey.
Mr. President, what do you?
Bunch of like that is how flippant this guy is. By the way, Joe Biden is a pathological liar.
Yes.
I've seen compilations and full on like articles that literally go in detail at the incredible amount of lies that this man like says on a regular basis. He talks about how he was top of his class. Like, no, he wasn't. He was like at the very bottom, near the bottom of his university class or whatever. He talked about how he was a Civil War like leader. Like, no, he actually was good friends with Robert Byrd, who was a KKK member, and he did a lot of laws, including the crime bill, I think it was, that put a ton of like Black Americans in jail. Like he actually, this guy's as big a liar as they come, and this is how flippant he is about this serious allegations. These are incredibly serious allegations. The president of the United States is being accused of accepting straight up bribes from foreign nations, like up to $5 million in bribes. This puts anything any other president has done to shame. And this is how completely flippant he is about it. It's insane to me. This guy is is proof positive that the American like political system and the justice system and the media system is insanely corrupt. I've never seen corruption on this scale in my life. Like, it's incredible. I mean, obviously, I see it in the Canadian political system. Trudeau is a full on criminal. He should actually be in jail. It's not just because I don't like the guy. He is an actual criminal. Like the SNC Lavalin scandal, he should be in jail for that. The Wee scandal, I've heard many like lawyers and people say like he should be in jail for that. The abuses, the human rights and the abuses that he did during the Freedom Convoy crackdown that he should be in jail for those things. But he's not, because we basically have a completely and totally fraudulent justice system in our country. So, anyways, I've been talking so Steve.
You have been talking for quite some time. Let's talk about the story. Let's talk about the story.
The problem is I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you're waiting for me.
I'm just
or
waiting.
If you're actually
just waiting.
Okay. That's the problem, because you're sometimes you're doing some other stuff. Sometimes you're doing
I have to, sometimes I'm doing.
So I can't tell what you're doing. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just keep going.
You just keep talking.
Yeah.
All right. So earlier today, the House Oversight finally allowed by the corrupt Biden FBI to view an unclassified document proving Joe Biden was taking bribes from Ukraine from political favors, the most egregious criminal accusation against any sitting president. Marjorie Taylor Greene on Thursday emerged from the SCIF and revealed explosive information about the bribery document. It was first presented to the FBI by a trusted, highly credible, well-paid informant back in 2017. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, enjoyed a highly lucrative position as a board member of Burisma. We talked about this many, many times. And, of course, back in 2015, 2016, Burisma was looking to buy a U.S.-based oil and gas company. This came from being advised by Hunter Biden and his partners. Came around the time that Joe Biden had said a Ukrainian prosecutor was corrupt. They hired Hunter on the board to make the problems go away. Hunter advised they could raise more money if they bought a U.S. company. And, of course, we talked about it multiple times. They investigated the prosecutor who wanted to investigate Burisma and Hunter Biden. Biden restricted the amount and would not give Ukraine aid until they fired the prosecutor that was investigating his son. And
It's
of course,
one of the most incredible.
It's clearly openly corrupt, openly incorrect and problematic, and it's a big stain upon the FBI, big stain upon the Department of Justice. But problem is that we know now. Back then, we were like, okay, like they're just building a case. It's like no.
Sure.
Now we know They were never building a case. They just do not care.
Yeah, they're literally holding water. And by the way, like what's his name? Dan Bongino. I think he actually made a really decent case that really what this is about protecting Obama and not so much about protecting Biden. Because Biden, the Democrats don't like Biden. They want him to quit and they don't want him to run again. They'd be fine if he went away. But they want to protect the Obama legacy because all of these things, all of the bribery scandal, all of these things that are happening that are being brought up today happened under Obama and put a gigantic black mark on his presidency. And they don't want that. They want to protect Obama's legacy by all means. And so I was like, yeah, I think he makes a pretty convincing case that in reality they're protecting Obama, but just they're by protecting Biden. And I'm like, yeah, I think that they're right. I think that they're basically playing cover for Obama's legacy, not so much for Biden. Because when Biden's gone, they're going to be like, yep, good riddance. You serve your purpose.
Yep. Okay, continuing onwards. So not only did they ignore the indictment, or did they ignore the documents from the FBI or from the House Congress Committee and the whistleblower, then of course Trump was indicted today over a classified documents case. We've been talking about the classified documents case for months.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that, of course, the FBI raided his residence in Mar-a-Lago. We knew that this was kind of trumped up charges because, of course, he's the president. He can declassify whatever he wants. He doesn't have to say that he classified it. If they come for the documents and he's like, oh yeah, I declassified that while I was president, they'll be like, okay, whatever, no bigs. At least that's how they should react. But they didn't because the DOJ is enforcing targeted enforcement. And now he's facing 7 charges, including unauthorized retention of classified files. U.S. media reported, but further details are unclear. It's the second indictment of Mr. Trump and the first ever federal indictment of a former president. He is campaigning to make a stunning return to the White House in 2024. In a post on Truth Social, he said he was innocent and had been summoned to appear in a federal court in Miami on Tuesday. I never thought it was possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States. This is indeed a dark day for the United States. We're a country in serious and rapid decline, but together we'll make America great. BBC's U.S. partner CBS. Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's your first mistake, BBC. You shouldn't partner with CBS. Reported sources saying the indictment was linked to the documents case involving multiple charges. Other U.S. media, including CNN and ABC, said the indictment involved at least 7. It enables the prosecution of a suspect for office as they are charged with, and the DOJ has, of course, declined to comment. And
as of course they do.
This is a joke. It's an absolute joke, especially considering that we know that I think at this point there were actually more documents found at Biden's residence and multiple residents. And unlike Trump's classified documents, his lawyers were in communication with the FBI and DOJ. They told them they had to secure it in a more secure location with a lock, and the FBI provided them with the lock, and they used it.
Yeah.
And so they were complying with what the FBI had stated. And then Biden, it was just like, oh yeah, we found some classified documents. Where were they? Were they under lock and key? Nah, they were just sitting around in his garage. Some of them might have even been visible during his 2020 campaign ad. But oh no, that's no big deal. It's Biden. It's kind of the establishment regime. It's not a problem.
You saw it in the CNN Trump town hall where the girl was basically playing defense, saying like, well, you were more guilty. You were more guilty. It's like, no, Joe Biden is more guilty because he's the vice president.
Yep. He doesn't have. Well, and then this wasn't just from when he was the vice president. Some of these classified documents from when he was senator. The vice president has limited classification. I actually looked this up. The vice president, in terms of declassification powers, I'll ask you a question, Denny. What can the vice president declassify?
Very, very specific documents related to his role.
Only documents in which the vice president has classified. Those are the only documents that the vice president can classify. What documents can a senator declassify?
None.
None whatsoever. So let's put that out there. A senator has no right to hold on to
or have
in his possession classified documents. A Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, has no right to hold on to classified documents. A vice president, if he classified those documents, then he can declassify them. But seeing as how the vice president doesn't often classify documents, it's very, very uncommon, very, very rare, then by all accounts, every single document in Joe Biden's possession until he became president was illegal. Whereas with Trump, as he was the president can classify and declassify any document as long as he stated, which he did, that, like the ones which are at question, I declassified them while I was president.
It's actually really much simpler than that, Stephen. Like, it's really a simple question. Was he the vice president?
Yep.
Did he have classified documents? Then he's guilty. That's really all it comes. Oh, he cooperated. He was very cooperative. Like, I don't give a rat's, it's he has in his possession classified documents. He's guilty. End of story. Case closed. Done. That's an easy dunk. Done. Trump is a little bit more complicated, and of course, they get into the weeds of like the legal case and all that kind of stuff. But Joe Biden is not even remotely controversial. He is in possession of classified documents. Done. I don't care how cooperative he is. He is now guilty of holding those things. So the fact that like it's undeniable. It's so freaking obvious. They don't even care that at how obvious it is that this is a witch hunt. This is what they do. These people have no morals. They're knee deep in the venality of evil. Their motto is by any means necessary. These are the same people that created that completely like insane witch hunt of Brett Kavanaugh. They're like, we don't care if like the accusations like that he's having like gangbang parties in like a university dorm, even though nobody anywhere in the existence of Earth ever verified anything even close to that. But no, they don't care. It's like, we're willing to throw anything at him, no matter how immoral or how liar it is. And then all of the people and the FBI, the DOJ, and all that kind of stuff. You mean the same people that created the very obvious hoax, which was Russiagate, which was based on zero evidence, not like some evidence, not tiny bit of evidence, zero evidence. And they lied through their teeth for years, knowing full well that this was a completely sham investigation. These are the same people we're supposed to trust. Like, oh no, this is the legitimate. Like,
this is totally valid.
Totally valid. Yeah, give me a break. No. Like, they're not even trying to hide the fact that they're completely fraudulent and corrupt.
Oh, like it's absolutely ridiculous. Like you talk to people who are supporting this indictment, they're like, oh, thank goodness Trump got indictment. Like, it's so good that we finally have justice in America again. And I'm like, what did he do wrong? And then it's just like, well, he did this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, but Biden did the same thing. And of course, like Hunter Biden's connection with Joe is fairly well known at this point. And Hunter Biden is clearly involved in some shady business deals and references his father in the laptop. And they're like, the laptop is not real. And I'm like,
yeah.
How do you doubt that at this point? They're like, the laptop is nobody's ever seen the laptop. And I'm like, what?
No,
I'm like, it was literally like at one point in time, there was a video and I believe it was Matt Gaetz. And he's like, this is Hunter Biden's laptop.
No, actually it was Steven Crowder. He had like, what's his name? Rudy Giuliani on the show, live on the show. And he's like, oh yeah, this is the laptop right here. He's like, wait, what?
Well, but I believe it was actually also Matt Gaetz, and Matt Gaetz actually brought it to Congress.
Yes, there were several people who had it. Yeah, it is pretty undeniable at this point. It is even to the point where like the networks that were playing cover for years have full on admitted years after that. Oh yeah, the laptop is for real.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically like reluctantly admit that like it's for real and all that. That whole idea that it was like a Russian plant or whatever, that was actually there was an actual article.
It was a DOJ. Well, it wasn't just a DOJ hoax. It was a DOJ hoax, but it showed the corruption inside the Department of Justice and the FBI, and that they went to these organizations and were like, now hold up. Mm-hmm. Now you have to silence opinions that make us look bad.
Yes, you do.
And they did.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Twitter has now been taken over And I'm glad that Facebook is basically just being silenced and crushed. We do have to move on because...
We'll just cover really quickly the video from...
we'll just quickly cover this Vivek Ramaswamy video just because, right now we're already at an hour and a half.
Yeah, I know.
So let's watch this and then we'll quickly move on.
I never thought we'd see the day when a party in power, a U.S. president, has a Department of Justice under him.
You have to switch over the video.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, you're not playing it on the actual main screen.
I will.
That's why I'm watching the main screen now.
Yep.
It's his lead rival during an election, in the middle of an election. Yet here we are. We have two standards of justice. One for BLM rioters and Antifa, another one for peaceful January 6th protesters. One for Chelsea Manning, another one for Julian Assange. Guess what? Now you have one for Joe Biden, who violates the same laws about document retention and classified documents, and then one for President Trump. And actually, there's deep questions, legal questions, that's for the courts, about declassification power, about whether documents are overclassified, but that's not the point. The point today is that we, the people, decide who actually governs in this country, not some administrative police state. And I am sorry, we do not live in some banana republic where the party in power gets to use its power to arrest political opponents. And believe me, it would be easier for me if Donald Trump were not in this race. But this is not about politics to me. This is about principle. I stand on the side of principle, and I'm committing to say that if I am elected as your next president on January 20th, 2025, I will pardon not just President Trump, but every victim of a politically motivated prosecution. Believe me, there have been others too. We will restore the rule of law in this country again.
Yep. Good statement.
That guy is solid.
Oh, I like Vivek quite a bit.
He got
I would love.
Fired. That's like
yes, he did.
Huge win.
I would love a DeSantis Ramaswamy campaign. I would love it.
That'd be really, really good.
I'd be like,
Vivek is everything he's done and said. I'm like, wow,
great.
I really like this guy. I would love it if he actually made a decent run. That would be amazing if he did. I would think
the times. Like I in just a quick conversation, I like Vivek. I sometimes like Tim Scott. I liked him on The View. He did a great job just like crushing them.
He did. They kept going to the producers. We have to go to commercial. Go to commercial!
Yeah, go to commercial. He's just destroying us.
That's right.
But I don't think that Tim Scott's message is quite the right one. But I think this is like Vivek is a distant third, but his ideals and DeSantis's ideals, they're different, but I think they're mergeable.
They are.
And they're both really like Vivek, their strength is when they're facing opposition. Because they can respond to opposition succinctly and strongly, and they can do so without kind of going overboard or getting emotional. It's just like, I'm going to address you in this way, and I'm going to just smack you down.
Yep.
And it's beautiful to see.
It's really, really fun to watch.
Pierre Poilievre does it in a lesser fashion. Mm-hmm. I really wish we had more politicians in Canada that would just be like, okay, hold up. I was gonna let you finish, but then you just filled the space with lies. So I'm gonna just demolish you right now.
Yeah.
So
got to do the Kanye West thing, like I love you. I'm gonna
Remember that one.
Video switched again.
Ugh. Hold on.
Okay. I'm just gonna switch over to I'm gonna start the news you may have missed, and you can sort that out. So, news you may have missed. Shocking moment, Mexico military soldiers execute 5 cartel members after they crashed during a high-speed chase. Case is now in the hands of prosecutors, with the president saying the actions cannot be permitted. No kidding. A video obtained earlier by the multiple Spanish-speaking media outlets showed the Mexican soldiers shot 5 alleged cartel members. 4 of the male suspects died on the scene. Another was declared dead in an ambulance. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said Wednesday that soldiers will be brought up on charges. So, it's unfortunate that this actually went into a chase. Like, the cartel members are clearly violent. and you shouldn't be shooting back at cops. You shouldn't be shooting back at soldiers.
Yep.
But also, like, this is something in which you can't be like. Do they have a video of this?
They do. It's right there.
Well, this is the video of like the aftermath of the crash.
No. Yeah, they have the actual crash and the shot. They shot him during the crash.
Yeah. Hokey Dinah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like,
But
yeah,
to be fair,
that's
it's cartels.
Oh yeah, I get it. It's cartels. Like, this should have been like the soldiers, like the Mexico military should have been communicating.
Mhm.
Like, the fact that this road is open to traffic is shocking. Like, of course, like, this is in Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico has the especially northern Mexico has the cartel.
Yeah.
And the cartels are vicious. Like, so
They are.
They are. This is why the Mexican army deals with them, not the police.
Mhm. Like, this
Anyway.
is in the United States or Canada. If there's this sort of situation, like, these roads for miles, they'll shut down the road.
Yeah.
So,
Stupid.
all right.
Well, let's go to the next story. This is BBC News, and this is something that we missed from the weekend. Ukraine dam. What we know about Nova Kakova incident. Okay, so a huge dam in the Russian-controlled area of southern Ukraine has been destroyed, unleashing a flood. Ukraine's military and NATO has accused Russia blowing up the dam while Russia is blaming Ukraine. Thousands of people have been evacuated, and then UN is basically there to go take care of some things. So where's the dam? The dam is in the Kherson region, the city currently under Russian occupation. It was built during the Soviet era, and it's one of the biggest dams, I think, in basically Europe. I think is from what I heard before. What happened? Video footage showed a massive breach of the dam with water surging through it and flooding downstream the direction of Kherson. The dam is basically fully destroyed, cannot be restored. They're not really sure how it was damaged, but they think it may have deteriorated. There's a couple theories. One that there was like explosives put on the dam itself and it burst. Another theory is that the dam was kind of like falling apart and maybe basically burst under the pressure of like a lot of extra water, all that kind of stuff. And they have like some aerial footage of the dam like basically bursting the banks. Obviously, there's some major concerns because environmental, first of all, agricultural, but the biggest concern is that there is a nuclear power plant that relies on this specific dam in order to get the water it needs to be able to cool its system. It's one of the biggest nuclear power plants in Europe. I think it's like way bigger than Chernobyl ever was. So obviously, there's like theories on like what exactly happened. So theories on the Ukraine did it. They say that okay, well maybe Ukraine and particularly NATO, they're trying to do an offensive into Russia. It's not going well. They're facing a lot of resistance, and they're finding out that they're maybe getting a little bit. They took on more than they can bear. Some theories are that Ukraine is basically in Ukraine and its forces and its allies did this to kind of buy themselves like several months of time because it eliminates the possibility that Russia could actually go in and do a counteroffensive. On the Russia, yes, on the Russia side, some people say well, Russia may have done this in order to flood the plain and make any assault into the Russian-held territory very difficult, if not impossible, because now you have to have tanks and all sorts of ground forces that have to cross over enormous amounts of water. So there's theories on both sides. It's not definitive yet, as far as I know, who is responsible. But it is a major event in this war. And it shows that right now we're in a weird place in the war where there are now, like, Ukraine is in a position where they can actually do counteroffensive into Russia. And yeah, there's a lot of we're not really sure where it's going to go, but it sounds like Ukraine is now in a stable enough position that they can actually now do counteroffensives. So the war is kind of changing a little bit. The dam is one part of that equation. We're not really sure because misinformation is on both sides. Both sides are claiming that the other side did it. So we will see. Take it away, Stephen.
All right. So, next story. Israel will do whatever we need to do to defend ourselves against Iran, Netanyahu says. Prime Minister said diplomacy between the two countries has failed and Iran remains openly committed to destroying and repeating the Holocaust. Meanwhile, he said a peace deal with Saudi Arabia would change history. That's true, it would.
Very true.
So, speaking explicitly as the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem, Mr. Netanyahu rejected U.S. attempts to resolve the growing crisis only through dialogue. I don't think diplomacy itself will work. I think diplomacy can only work if it's coupled with a credible military threat or the willingness to apply the military option if deterrence fails. Iran is openly committed to destroying, repeating the Holocaust and destroying the 6 or 7 million Jews of Israel, and we're not going to sit idly by and let them do it. This is... Netanyahu reminds me of me. Yep. We're gonna sit idly by and let them do it. If these Ayatollahs think they can threaten us with a nuclear holocaust, they're wrong. We will do whatever we need to do to defend ourselves. During the interview, he sent a message to Saudi Arabia and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. As rumors of a peace deal between the two countries continue to circulate, our hand is extended to all Arab states and certainly to Saudi Arabia, which is vitally important. Which is vitally important. We have great opportunities to advance the peace in our region, peace between our two countries, the well-beings of our peoples, and I think it would change history. Yes, it would definitely change history to have a peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel, for sure.
I think, so I'd encourage you guys to look into it, but I heard somewhere in the podcast that apparently this year is going to be very big for Israel. Mm-hmm. Not only is it possible that Iran might actually get their hands on a nuclear bomb, but secondly, there's a lot of people saying that there's a big possibility that Israel could be heading into a civil war within the next year, which is huge.
It is really big
for Israel. So keep your eyes on Israel, because they're not in the news right now because there's no actual major wars, conflicts, but it's gonna get ugly.
It's gonna get ugly. All right.
Okay, next one. CTV News. Supreme Court of Canada will not hear.
Okay, so we're switching. Sorry.
I didn't realize we were backwards.
Yeah, it's okay.
Am I doing okay? Okay, so CTV Canada, Supreme Court of Canada won't hear a vaccinated woman's case for organ donation. The Supreme Court of Canada, but by the way, this is no shock, because the Supreme Court in Canada...
It's a rubber stamp for liberal policies.
It's basically like, it's imagine having every single member of the Supreme Court be Democrats.
Yeah.
That's basically Canada's Supreme Court.
So across the board.
Yeah, the Supreme Court of Canada will not hear an appeal of an Alberta woman who was unwilling to be vaccinated against COVID-19 in order to get a life-saving organ transplant. Annette Lewis was diagnosed with terminal disease. In 2018, was told that she would not survive unless she received an organ transplant. She was placed on transplant wait list in 2020, but was informed a year later that she would not get she would need to get the COVID-19 vaccine to get the organ. So of course, like the whole battle is whether or not she can be forced to get the medical treatment in order to receive another one. It's almost like holding her hostage, basically.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's Justice Paul Belsil ruled the standard of care must be the same for all potential recipients, or it could result in medical chaos. What a bombastic, joke of a comment, eh? Like, it's like, do the law. No, don't talk about hyperbole. My goodness. The Alberta Court of Appeal upheld the decision, prompting Lewis's appeal to the Supreme Court. Ms. Lewis is deeply disappointed the Supreme Court of Canada decided not to hear her case. She had hoped that justice would prevail in the courts for herself and other unvaccinated transplant candidates across Canada. So what this story basically demonstrates is that A, our justice system in Canada is fundamentally broken.
Oh yeah.
B, it demonstrates that Canada has the ability to hold people hostage using their healthcare system because we have socialized healthcare, which means that you have only one option if you want to get any kind of medical treatment, and that only option is the socialized healthcare, which means they can hold people hostage medically.
And of course, like the desired outcome that socialized medicine wants for this woman is made.
Oh yeah, I would not be shocked at all.
Oh no, I'm sure they'd be like, well, you have to get a shot if you want to join the transplant program. But if you want to get made, we'll do that for you, and you don't have to get vaccinated. We'll just do it for you.
That's right. These people are like really sick.
Oh, it's disgusting.
The kind of things. But by the way, they also want to expand MAID so they can kill homeless people.
Yep.
You think I'm exaggerating?
And veterans.
And veterans.
Like people are like, oh no, like the system, like the Canadian government chastised the Veterans Affairs officials for offering it to them. Like, no. They chastised the Veterans Affairs people for being too obvious and for getting caught.
Yeah.
Because we already know, like, that we remember famously that one veteran who went up to Trudeau and he's like, well, veterans, but like, I can't afford my bills. Veteran benefits are not enough. And Trudeau openly told him, you're asking for more than we can give.
Yeah, because they want to save money. Remember, it's all about money. It's all about money. And we're going to talk about that later on when we talk about the Mash Walsh expose, but it's all about money. But anyways, take the next story, Steve.
Wow, Maid is top 5 in Montreal for cause of death. Or Quebec. Well, I believe that. There's actually a story that we didn't get to cover about Quebec that I'll briefly address now because we're talking about Canadian issues.
Sure.
There is, and I'll try and find this, there was a pro-life conference. I believe it was a pro-life conference in Quebec. They shut it down because it disagreed with like the ideals of the province. And so like they were doing it and they're like, no, we have to shut this down.
Yep.
It's like, yikes. This is crazy stuff. What Quebec is just radical left.
Yep.
And I wish we didn't have to continue supporting them for equalization payments, but that's one of the more reason why the flag is upside down and why I want Alberta to become a 51st state.
Yeah, we're better off in the States.
But one place we're definitely not off, one place we're definitely a little bit better than, is Australia. Australia to phase out checks ushers in digital payment era by 2030. Treasurer Jim Chalmers announced a strategic shift towards modernizing Australia's payment system while retaining cash transactions for now. So from 2030, checks will be a thing of the past as government looks to transform the money system to the digital era. He told the Australia Banking Association in Sydney on Wednesday, there's been a 90% decline in the use of checks over the past 10 years. He said checks were an outdated and costly way of doing business. It could easily be replaced by internet and mobile banking. The government will begin the process of winding down the use of checks across the economy, with federal departments to use other payment methods by 2028. He said the use of checks would end completely by 2030. The transition will be gradual, coordinated, and inclusive. The treasurer also reaffirmed his commitment to Australia piloting a central bank digital currency. Our vision is to create a modern, world-class, and efficient payment system that is safe, trusted, accessible, and enables greater competition, innovation, and productivity across the economy. He dismissed concerns that Australia would become a cashless society, promising the government is not trying to eliminate cash from the monetary system. That is nonsense. Of course he is. But like we've talked about the dangers of a cashless society. We talked about the dangers of a central bank digital currency that's provided by the government. If we thought that them shutting down the bank accounts of the truckers and the freedom protests were bad in Canada, just think if they had access to this.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
You ain't seen nothing.
I mean, we just saw what they did with like a system where you have no alternative, which is socialized medicine, and what they did to people there. You just watch what they will do when you have absolutely no alternative with the financial system. Good luck. Anyways, last story for today. National Review, cutting through the factual haze on the Canadian forest fires.
Yeah.
So on the menu today, more than you ever thought you would need to know about forest fires in Quebec. Dispelling the notion that there's some human being to blame for the fires and how a lot of people want to turn the murky orange miasma tormenting the East Coast into a lesson about climate change. Meanwhile, golfer Greg Norman uses an absolutely terrible cliche to defend Saudi Arabia. By the way, so this was big news in the East Coast of the United States. They're covered in like haze right now. Like
yeah, I think there was is there a picture of
the haze?
No, there's not a picture of New York right now, but it looks like New York did. I mean, like Calgary did a few weeks ago. It's orange, it's hazy, and yeah, there's like people want to find someone like if things are going good, then this is the way it's naturally supposed to be. If things are going bad, then people want to find someone to blame. And like in truth, yes, there are investigations. So the state police is telling the Toronto Sun that they are investigating the possibility of arson. However, like that's definitely for sure it's a possibility. It was there was a couple cases in Alberta that were caused by arson.
There were there's a lot of arson cases here because of the wildfires here, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And so the haze that has bedeviled so many of us over the past few days appears attributed to what local officials are calling a perfect storm conditions. Very low humidity, no rain, strong winds, many thunderstorms and lightning strikes. The whole spring has been hot and dry in much of Quebec. A week ago, the provincial government asked the entire population to cooperate in avoiding or restricting travel by road as much as possible. So, of course, arson could be a possibility. It could, of course, be from controlled fire burns, crop clearing, could be from campfires. Like, there was an entire fire in 2021 that was started by a gender reveal party.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was a crazy one.
That was crazy. It was crazy.
I mean, it was a cool idea, but they just did not think
they
about
didn't they didn't think of the outcome.
Yeah, the potential harm that could cause if it goes a little bit off. But by the way, guess what? Like almost every major leftist media publication in the United States is blaming this on climate change,
because it's
always climate change.
Yeah, it's always climate change.
Like Justin Trudeau,
women firefighters, Mexico.
Yeah, whenever Justin Trudeau gets questioned about the cost of his insanely stupid carbon tax, he always goes back to the cost of climate change is so much worse. I'm like, give me a break. What a garbage argument that you're making. You're like, well, if you don't give us money, people more forest fires and floods and whatever else. It's basically it's earth worship.
Mm-hmm.
It's back in the days. Yeah, back in the ancient days, they used to offer grain offerings and sacrifices and all that to the gods so that they would have good weather. So the weather would be gooder, right? Like Ralph Wiggum would say. But it's such a scam. It is a garbage scam. The fact that they keep pushing the idea that bad weather, climate change. That's the thing. Oh, it was a little dry this year. Climate change. Oh, my mom came over and she was complaining that it was not that it was a little bit too much pollen in the air. Oh, climate change. There's always climate change. It's their answer to everything. It's the one size fits all kind of nonsense that they always push. So, anyways, yeah, the fires have actually hit here in Alberta, a lot of Ontario. And so they're kind of big in the news right now because of the fact that they're affecting so many places. But
we did hear, addressing Conqueror's points. Yes, the one in Banff, I believe it set a stable on fire, was caused by this women firefighting conference.
It was funny.
And they had a controlled burn, and they're like, oh no, we didn't anticipate that the wind would be so bad and that it would change suddenly. And now we have this fairly large blaze on our hands because... we want to promote non-sexism?
Well, I don't have a problem with that.
Oh no, I'm fine with, as long as the women can pass the physical, I'm fine with them being firefighters. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I know they've changed the standards in the military. I know that they've changed the standards in the police. I know they've probably changed. They've changed it in some districts for the firefighters.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like a woman Navy SEAL. If they can pass the stuff, then sure. It's just, it'd be like 1 in 1,000 that could pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we do have to move on and finish off because we're already at 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Let's do it.
So let's do the weekly exposure. So let's talk about a few different things. So just jumping in, of course, we're going to start off with a Jussie Smollett moment.
Jussie
Elliott.
Jussie Elliott, yeah.
Jussie Elliott. So, trans actress. This is, of course, from InfoWars was the only one that I could find in the first 3 pages of Google that actually referred to Ellen Elliott Page as an actress and not an actor.
Yeah, because they all have to play the...
Yeah. Faces accusations of fabricating hate crime attack echoing Jussie Smollett hoax.
Yeah, Jussie Page.
So, the accusations stem from an anecdote in the LA Times over the week in which it claimed Page was approached outside a hotel in LA by a crazy man spouting homophobic slurs and threatening to attack her/him. And yet downstairs at the Sunset Strip Hotel, he, quote unquote, is less than a mile from the spot where a man on the street threatened to assault him last year, as he described in his book. Wow, this. Shut up, Paige. You're a dingus. Who lives in New York, Jesse Page, was standing in the corner of Sunset and La Cienega, taking a quick walk to the Pink Dot convenience store when a stranger approached. Quote, I'm going to effing gay bash you. I can't.
Say gay slur.
Gay slur, yes.
Gay slur.
The man threatened, terrified. I began running towards the Pink Dot where employees ushered, Jussie Smollett, or Elliot Smollett.
You're quoting the article, so you can.
Okay, I'm quoting it. So, terrified, Page began running towards the Pink Dot where employees ushered him inside from the other side of the door, and the man yelled, "This is why I need a gun. Now, when I'm in Los Angeles, I don't feel comfortable like I used to for going for walks." Like, this totally makes sense for Los Angeles, just like you're in MAGA country totally made sense for, like, the lefty area of Chicago. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, this totally sounds legit. It would be like saying, like, like somebody from, like, deep, like, Florida or deep Texas saying, like, oh, they're coming in, they're threatening to kill the Christian kids, and they're gonna rape them in the streets, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound very legitimate. It's insane. Like, this story has all the hallmarks of a complete fiction. The fact that, like, there was several witnesses everywhere, all of whom supposedly observed this thing. You think that if Elliot Page, who was like is a top notch, like, very famous and very highly protected, like, member of the trans community and all that, you think that people would not jump all over that the second they saw something like that happen? And yet we never heard about it because apparently it happened a year ago, and everyone was too scared to, like, report it. You think that the police would not have been, like, investigating that like crazy? No. We're just supposed to believe.
They're supposed to believe it without questioning why.
Oh yeah, believe all women, of course.
Women / men / it. They aliens.
I feel like we need the music from that guy in that YouTube short.
Oh yes.
Like, sir.
Identify as a chair. It's like. It's like, oh no.
I now identify as a naked mole rat. Like, oh god.
It's like, arrest, go. Yeah, go.
Get.
It reminds me of an old video. And I forget exactly who did. I think it was actually from Studio C. And it was like the modern, like, descriptions of, like, doing, like, sketching for criminals and, like, releasing statements. It's like, okay.
No, that was Babylon Bee cartoon.
No, I think Studio C did it too.
Maybe they both did it.
Yeah, they both did it. Like, if you want to talk, I'll actually try and find it.
Okay. So, just a really quick note on Elliot Page while you're looking that up. So, Elliot Page is basically like a notorious, like, grifter and scammer.
Yeah,
I remember, like, I saw this video. I think it was on the Colbert show, and what was the video? Oh yeah, she was talking about how completely credible and totally believable the Jussie Smollett thing was, and she was just jumping on how, like, we have to believe Jussie Smollett. So yeah, this person is like, they will say and do anything as long as it, like, helps their cause.
Yeah.
So, like, they're not a credible witness.
They're not a credible. Yeah. Like, no. This is basically how they're describing. We'll watch like a minute. Like, we'll start a bit in.
4 minutes in.
And how would you feel if someone said you were Hispanic, Rogers?
Excited?
No, that is wrong. You would feel discriminated.
So how am I supposed to describe the perpetrator without saying his ethnicity?
Oh, I don't know. Have you ever heard of height, weight, to what degree they look like Kevin Bacon?
Oh, okay, but those can only take you so far.
Okay, Jones. You, of all people, should know There's other ways to describe somebody.
Okay, what do you mean by me of all people?
Because you're short.
Oh, touche.
Touche.
Now, what was your perp wearing?
Well, he was wearing a sombrero.
Oh, can't say that either. People are totally gonna think you're profiling.
But that was actually what he was wearing.
Okay, Peterson, not everything is one color and another color.
You mean black and white?
I am this close to taking your badge. Now read the report back to me, but without all the offensive parts.
Hey, there's nothing offensive in here, but I have a search request out for a person with an accent from somewhere else.
Good.
And he is wearing a traditional hat from a culture.
Yeah.
He is also 6 feet tall.
Whoa! Can't say that either. That's offensive to Europeans.
What?
But that's kind of what there's. Oh no. You can't profile. Can't profile.
Profile. Down to that.
But you can totally if the guy is white. If he's a MAGA Republican.
Oh, he is fair game.
And he's a white supremacist.
Apparently, to be a white supremacist, you can be a Latino now.
Yes,
you can also
we
be
learned
black, white supremacist. You can totally be black to do that. This actually sounds very similar to how the media actually describes people. Remember that incident? There was an incident that came out in Florida where like a bunch of guys were shooting. It was a gang related incident, but a whole bunch of bystanders got shot. And when the media was actually putting out like the description of these guys, it was like, oh yeah, they were wearing like camel shorts and a black t-shirt. It's like, what? What? The only description is the clothing, which is the most easy to swap thing imaginable, and that's what their description. Why? Because they can't say that they're black. They can't say like like the most identifiable feature about them. Like if somebody shot somebody in the street, be like can you describe them? Like, yeah, they had like really bright red hair. It's like, okay, that's kind of a big helpful feature. That's gonna help me find the person. Because like the number of people who have red hair, it's kind of small. So it's probably going to help me a lot. But no. You can't say that about black people and about, Hispanic people, like because they're marginalized communities, like you can't discriminate about, it's garbage. Give me a break. But yeah, so Jussie Smollett, or Jussie Page here, basically let me put it this way. The chances that that story that she told are that story is real are slim to none. Not to mention that she has absolutely zero evidence to back up her claim, even though she has witnesses. None of these witnesses have actually spoken. So again, totally make this. I'm just like I'm calling bull. But here is a story about an actual. Thing that is actually not made up. This is actually based on evidence. It's what Instagram got caught doing. So again, speaking of grifters and people who are like legitimately causing harm to society. Let's talk about what actual
what actual pedophiles look like.
What Instagram is actually doing. By the way, Instagram is very popular with kids. Hence why this
was so ew. Thought it was SNL for a moment. Yes, that's. SNL used to be good. Studio C used to be really, really good. Their writing has gone down quite a bit.
Like a lot of these shows, yeah.
But yeah, if you look up Studio C from like 5 years ago, you'll find some really funny videos. So if you want, like, I sent you the link for the Discord. If you want some funny videos, I'll send them to you. They're really good. But so. From Summit, a comprehensive investigation by the Wall Street Journal and the Stanford Internet Observatory reveals that Meta-owned Instagram has been home to an organized and massive network of pedophiles. What separates this case from most is that Instagram's own algorithm promoting pedophilia and pedophile content to the pedophiles, while the pedos themselves use coded emojis such as a picture of a map or a slice of cheese pizza. They connect pedophiles and guides them to selected sellers via recommendation systems that excel at linking those who share niche interests, like the journal. The journal and other academic researchers found the pedophile accounts on Instagram mix brazenness with superficial efforts to veil their activity. Researchers found certain emojis function as a kind of code, such as an image of a map, shorthand for minor attractive person, or one of cheese pizza, which shares its initials with child porn. According to Levine of UMass, many declare themselves lovers of the little things in life.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. That's
horrid.
messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So according to researchers, they allow pedophiles to search for things with explicit hashtags such as pedo, whore, and preteen sex, which were to guide to connect them to accounts that advertise child sex material for sale from users going into the names such as Little Slut for You. This is horrendous.
Yeah, it's horrendous stuff. Yeah.
Like, the fact, this is actually very interesting. Because, like, of course, Summit News is talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually look this up, Instagram pedophile, I really doubt you'd have a massive amount of mainstream. So, of course, the Wall Street Journal was the one that talked about it.
Yeah.
Fox News talked about it. Okay.
Yep.
Some credit to Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
The New York Post. Yep. The Independent, the Daily Mail.
Conservative.
Relevant, also somewhat conservative. The Trumpet. Like,
you know,
this one. CNBC. This is the second page. Claims Instagram is connecting a network of pedophile accounts.
Unbelievable.
Yahoo News. There we go. Like, this is the first one, and it's 2 pages down the way from the first left-wing source.
Yeah, by the way, like, you know, Google is the notorious. Like, if you search a story on anything, like any topic that's a big story, if you type in Trump indictment right now, every single story in the first like page and a half, 2 pages, 3 pages will be left-wing articles that you will not find New York Post or Daily Mail or
okay, here we go. I just searched it up. Trump indictment. Yeah. CNN, NBC, The Guardian, ABC, CBS, Vox, ABC, BBC, CNBC, Politico, NBC, MSNBC, The New York Times, ABC. I would just go until we find a conservative. New York Times, Al Jazeera, CBC, The Washington Post, USA Today, Politico, CNN. Third page. Okay. NBC, ABC. I'm going to stop after 4 pages. Washington Post, The Atlantic, Washington Post, The Toronto Star, MSNBC, USA Today.
Left wing.
Wall Street. There you go. 4 pages. Wall Street Journal.
There we go.
Censor.
Dear Lord.
Thank you, Google.
This is why I tell people, I'm like,
hashtag Google biased exposed.
This is why you can't do research on Google. Google is insanely biased in what they present to you. Insanely biased. It's unbelievable. But yeah, the one thing I found really interesting, and by the way, he's not the first person that's mentioned this, but that, like, I encourage you to go watch the Tim Pool episode from last night. The guy actually like exposed that one thing that a lot of like, these are the good people in the FBI and other, like, you know, police networks and all that are actually trying to stop pedophiles and all that. One thing that they say, and like NAMBLA, use the example of NAMBLA, the National Association of Man-Boy Love, I think it's called. NAMBLA is notoriously good at finding ways of skirting or gaming the law. And it's frustrating because they know what they're doing. They know that they're doing all sorts of like incredibly shady things, but they know how to work under to hide underneath the system. So one of the problems here with Instagram and all these other places is that the people who are, and by the way, there are casual pedophiles out there. I've heard like stories, people who are attracted to kids, but who don't actually go out of their way to even look for it. They just avoid it entirely. But anybody who's in these networks, by the way, the Instagram story, anybody who's in there, these are not casual pedophiles. These are committed and intentional predators. These are people who know that the system is very harsh to people who are like, you know, attracted to children, and they find very, very, like, they become very good at hiding underneath the system. And so people don't realize how incredibly intelligent and powerful these pedophile networks have become. Right? So you need to understand this is out there, and this is just insanely these are very, very very sophisticated operations. You know, like, so if you have a kid, you have to be very careful because they're not going to use very like easy to spot and easy to discover like ruses or methods. They're going to use very sophisticated ones to get to your kids. So as a parent, be super vigilant out there, because these people are like legitimately like they're like wolves looking for children to devour. So I don't know if you want to go to the last story, the big expose from the Daily Wire.
The big expose. Let's do it. So
Yeah.
Matt Walsh, undercover investigation, catches trans healthcare providers rubber stamping sex change surgery. Some of the nation's largest trans healthcare providers are rubber stamping approvals for life-altering sex change procedures, even falsely representing health diagnoses of patients. So insurance companies will cover the medical expenses daily, while our host Matt Walsh revealed in a tweet thread Wednesday. In an undercover investigation, Walsh and his team discovered how easy it is to get approved for sex change surgery, and one of the host producers got a thumbs up for an orchidectomy procedure to remove testicles after just a 22-minute virtual appointment with Plume, the largest trans health provider in the United States. Let's see if we can get a video from this. So here we go. Let's watch the video and just be shocked.
And your dad is the one that's doing the hormone replacement therapy for you?
Yeah, so he's actually a doctor, and he knows a lot of doctors who do it, who prescribe it.
Perfect. And is your dad providing a letter for you as well?
No, that's part of why I'm yeah, I think there's a conflict there, and that's also part of the reasons why he involves other doctors with me as well, is he just thinks it's better to have an independent person do it. He could have done it. He told me he could have done it, but
All right. So that's one of the videos. I believe there is another one to go further. Maybe not.
That was the main one? Oh, maybe that one?
So, yeah, there are other ones that are on Matt Walsh's Twitter. And it basically just goes into the fact that this individual, so the producer, Greg Ree, got scheduled for a video call with Plume, providing a fake name on the intake form. Ree made it for him that he had not been experiencing gender dysphoria for 6 months or more. He mispronounced the name of the surgery he wanted and said he didn't know what effect the surgery would have on him. Yet Plume's nurse practitioner told Ree she wanted to write down the most solid letter possible to justify surgery. 3 days later, Plume sent a letter to Ree, who said his name was Chelsea Bussey, saying Ray was experiencing significant ongoing gender dysphoria, despite Bussey saying unequivocally that this was not the case and recommending Chelsea for testicle removal. While sending a text message to Ree, Plume explained that the letters of recommendation are sent using a template based on standards provided by the Radical World Professional Association for Transgender Health, otherwise known as WPATH. The Plume sends letters of recommendations for $150 to those seeking transgender surgeries and seeking to get covered by insurance. So, this is crazy. Like, I actually had a conversation with my coworker about this because his cousin says that they are trans, and according to his cousin, it took like months of counseling and talking and doing all this stuff. So I don't know if it's different in the United States or Canada. It'd be interesting to have this sort of to try and like have an undercover conversation here in Canada. But like, this is the type of undercover journalism that we just don't have the funding for.
Mm-hmm.
We would love to, but we just don't have the funding. So
It's hard to pull off.
There's lots of things which we would love to do as a part of the show.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you basically have 2 full-time jobs and live ordinary, regular lives, and you do this on the side just for fun.
Yeah, I think that the big thing is that the big question is, how do you address these people? Because these are people like for example, how do you address someone like Elliot Page, who is openly trying to promote the idea that trans people are under incredible danger and all that kind of stuff for nefarious purposes, of course, obviously for money, because she's basically selling her book, but more importantly is because she wants to have the power dynamic, of I'm a victim, look at me, I'm a victim kind of thing, right? Which gives them power. But then how do you deal with people like Instagram, like these pedophiles, these openly very obvious pedophiles, and that they're targeting children on Instagram, which is a very like incredibly obvious that they're hurting children like that. And how do you stop these people in schools? That teacher that we talked about at the very beginning, who was basically telling children in their school, like who are basically like in what do you call a captive audience, that you are not allowed to even think about avoiding the topic of like transgender of LGBT Pride Month and all that kind of stuff. You cannot dissent, and you cannot even have wrong think. You must bow to the new religion kind of thing. How do you oppose these kind of people? And I'm glad to see that we're starting to see a lot of like amazing people out there who are showing you how. They're showing you the way. They're showing you that one way is you have to capture. Like those students did an amazing thing by exposing that teacher, by capturing her on audio, so that people could hear the absolute lunacy that she was like promoting. Or people like Matt Walsh, who are going out and actually exposing what these clinics are actually doing, how they're rubber stamping people. And the fact that the big takeaway of that whole thing was that it took 22 minutes. Imagine making a 22-minute call and being approved to have your genitals removed. That is essentially equivalent to get to a 22-minute call to get a lobotomy. That is virtually almost the same. These are irreversible procedures that cause irreversible harm, that are based on junk science, if any, like legitimate science, and people can get green lit for those under 20, like in 20 minutes, and it's all about money. In the end, it's all about money. It's insane. Like, but I'm so grateful to see that we're starting to see, hopefully, a tide changing. More people are being more and more brave and speaking out, which is amazing. And I'm hoping that it continues, because the people who are pushing this stuff are getting more aggressive. And so you're going to have more and more courage to be able to actually, like, speak out. Because we had a guy here in Alberta, like that guy from Ontario, that student. You remember who I'm talking about, Stephen? The one who got arrested here.
Oh, Josh
for handing
Alexander.
out Bibles. That's the one.
Yeah.
He got arrested for handing out Bibles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, and of course, I actually didn't even mention this. Tomorrow. So keep an eye on this for tomorrow. Okay. In Ottawa tomorrow, there is a fairly large protest against drag shows for children, against transing children. And so, like, people like Billboard Chris will be there, Viva Fry will be there. So just knowing what I expect from the LGBTQ mob, there will very, very likely be violence. And I just, like, it's funny, because I look at these encounters and people are like, why would you even, like, say that you would have, like, that you would bring up the topic of self-defense? And I'm like, because we've been attacked over and over and over again.
It's true.
So, like, why? Like, I'm glad that I was talking to someone yesterday, because I had this massive conversation thread on Matt Walsh's post, because Matt Walsh was talking about the reaction to the. Oh no, this was before he. Yeah, I was talking about the reaction to What Is a Woman, and I commented and like, yeah, like in Calgary, like the Calgary police came to my door.
That's true, they did.
And because I said that if the police continue to do nothing, then we'll be forced to defend ourselves. And people were like, no, that's not what happened. I'm like, it is what happened. And I'm like, I can show you video proof of what happened. I'm like, the only violent individuals in that event in Calgary were the LGBTQ. The only violent individuals in the events where they attacked Billboard Chris were the LGBTQ. The only violent individuals against Josh Alexander last month were the LGBTQ. Like, this is a violent organization. This is a violent movement. And I'm glad that Billboard Chris has security now.
Yeah, I'm glad too.
Because
it's actually getting downright dangerous for him.
Oh, it's getting downright dangerous to even show up.
True.
Like, the reason that on March 4th, we left early because there was a genuine, like, once we saw that guy was being pushed into the road, we're like, there's only 30 of us. Yeah. There's like 200 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And like we just have no guarantee of safety. And the police have basically laughed in our faces when we said, hey, like this person was attacked, that person was attacked, that person was attacked. And they're like, haha, we're not going to do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we had to leave. Like this is what we're facing in modern Canada.
Yeah.
And I'm doubtful that things will remain peaceful. And I'm doubtful that if things do not remain peaceful, I know that the police will basically just scoff it off or not take any action. Like, I know that during the Josh Alexander incident, they're like, oh yes, like Antifa members were charged. And I'm like, really?
Sure they were.
I'm like, they're wearing masks. And there's no video evidence that they were detained on site. How on earth are you going to arrest them or charge them?
Well, you had a video. You had a video, didn't you, that Josh Alexander, I think, shared with you about like that he was saying like, they insulted me. Like, oh, we'll take care of it after. Like, how are you going to do that? They're wearing masks.
And they're like we're not like, stop bringing this up to us.
Yeah.
And he's like, but you're not doing your job. And they're just like,
no, they are. Like,
they're doing their job.
They are doing their job in the sense that they're following the order given by whatever political leaders that they're given. I know that. By the way, this is all fascism. Like anyone who's a student of history understands that these are fascist, communist tactics. They use political violence and political intimidation, like in terrorism, to try to intimidate people to basically never speak up. And this because the goal of the left is not to have a conversation. It's not to convince people. It's to basically intimidate people into silence. That is the way they operate, and it's by design. It's not an accident. It's not an anomaly. It's not a bug. It's what's it called? Like it's not a bug. It's the
intent. It's a feature.
Yeah, it's a feature of the system. That is exactly how they work, and they always operate in those sense. So. Yeah. So, by the way, like, you know, I always like to say, and for the Christian people that I know that we discussed and stuff, like we're going back to the same, essentially scenarios that we saw in the early church, around the time of Paul and Peter and all these other people. Because remember, in the early church, they were like the Christians were not only like open, it was open season against them. There were giant mobs that formed and basically like tried to like take them and beat them by force, or the political like authorities targeted them and arrested them. So we're going back to those days. And so if you're a Christian nowadays, you have to remember our society is not it's basically been corrupted to the point where we no longer live in the camp that your grandfather or your parents lived up then. We don't. We just don't live in that society anymore. Remember, Stephen, you and I went to a pro-choice rally years ago.
That was the first thing we ever did.
With Tate. That was one of the first major things that we did together. And those people were very like, they were using very, what do you call it? Just scummy tactics. They're accusing us of lies. They were trying to like get us arrested. They use their umbrella brigade. You know what they always do is like they create a barrier so that nobody can see your message, whatever. But these were like nonviolent. If we were in that same exact thing today, that would be very different. And I would not be surprised or shocked because remember, we were outnumbered like massively. We were 3 people in a group of how many people were there? Like 50?
Yep.
50 people. Today, in that kind of situation, we would easily be assaulted by who knows how many people in that crowd. Because
then nowadays the police would look at it and they're like, well, we told you that you should have gone across the street. It's like, this is a public space. Well, it's like that past the preacher got arrested.
Yeah.
Go away. Let them have their thing. And it's like, this is a public space.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I know, but we're just not going to tolerate it. And it's like, that's not how that works.
By the way, did you notice that in that video of that guy being arrested? You notice that one of the female cops had like a really like short.
I did.
I'm like, what are the odds? How much you want to bet that lady is likely lesbian? Because that is it. That I mean, I know that there are like rare exceptions when I do see somebody a woman who's not a lesbian who like has a haircut like that. But far and above, if you see a woman like with a haircut like that, it's most often it's a lesbian. I would not be shocked if she was an ideologically, like she ideologically, like was enforcing the law in a way that she likes. She's like, well,
it's like the cops here in Calgary that had the rainbow police sign on the back of their on the back of their uniform,
or the one in Ontario, that in Toronto, where that black preacher that always goes on tours, he was arrested by a police officer. That there's a lot of like speculation that he may be like part of the. And sure enough, when people looked into it, that police officer was so blatantly part of the LGBT community and such a loud.
I'm going to just show you one video, and then we do pretty much have to end the show. So there was a woman in. It was on Michael Knowles' show today. There was a woman who was arrested for praying silently.
Oh yeah, that's in England, in the UK.
Yeah, in England.
Yeah,
but and like the video of her arrest is like it's truly disturbing. And I'll see if this article has it. Because the way that they talk to her. So here. Please load. Please.
Maybe
you are outside here when you know you shouldn't be. Okay. The public space protection order says not to be stood outside here, doesn't it?
I haven't seen that. No. It says protest.
Yeah, protest. But people know who you are, and they know why you're here. Okay, then.
No, I'm not protesting.
But they will. And the people that persistently phone us, which are the residents and the people who use this place, are the ones that say that they know. And it's their perception of events, isn't it?
It's their perception of events.
Okay. And it's their perception of events, which is that you're protesting.
Oh, reality doesn't matter
No,
anymore.
I get what you're saying. I completely understand where you're coming from.
I don't care. It's basically what he's saying.
People's perception, isn't it?
I think there has to be some measure.
People's perceptions are not.
Okay then. Okay then. So what we'll start with is we're going to issue you with a ticket now.
Sure, dear.
And if you don't leave the area, you'll then be arrested. Do you understand that? Okay. I won't ask if you're happy with that, but you're happy that you understand the process.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Unreal.
Yep.
That was
absolutely just ridiculous.
So that was basically an example, like one of the best examples I think I've ever seen of thought cramps.
Yep.
Wrong.
Because it's legitimately wrong think. Because she's like, I'm not saying anything. I'm not protesting. I'm silently praying. Yes, but it's the perception. It's like, it doesn't matter what the perception is.
Yeah.
What matters, like, it doesn't matter whether when someone kind of upsets me and I want to punch them in the face. It's like, it doesn't matter if I think that, as long as I don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter that that pastor was not actually disrupting the event.
Nope.
He was just talking. He wasn't using a loudspeaker. He was just talking. He was just saying Bible verses. But it was because of the radical mob and their perception. It's like, oh no, in our perception, you're protesting. When we went to that pro-choice rally, in our perception, you're disrupting the rally. By doing what? By standing in the corner quietly with a sign.
Yeah. And by the way, if the roles were reversed again, like that whole idea of like it's not whether or not you have laws, is whether they're applied evenly. If there was a Christian group meeting outdoors, and a whole bunch of like Antifa protesters came out and started yelling at us and all that.
Well, or even, if they were silently forming on the other side of the street, it would be like, "Hi guys, how you doing? You want to talk?"
Yeah. No. But like the point is that they would never
they even consider it.
Like go after them and be like, "Oh, you guys are disrupting." You guys, because they do that. They disrupt.
Yep.
they go and I've seen videos of Antifa members. They go to like there's
they go inside conferences, and
Well,
then
yeah.
like I remember there was a couple with Michael Knowles, and in the middle of they had one time where it was just like one person says a phrase, and you have 20 people, and they're all like shame, 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 and then they all run
that's
out.
not disrupting. They're not offending the people there.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you right now, the people there are probably like upset and probably a little bit offended by their bad behavior and all that. But that doesn't matter because it's not whether or not you're offended. That's the point. It's the right people have to be offended. The people who are power. Because like the what was that common phrase? How do you know? You'll know who the people who are powerful by who you're not allowed to criticize.
Yep.
Right. Those are the people that with the real power.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's the problem. It's like the people, the abortion supporters in the UK, they're the ones with the real power. They're the ones who have the power and they're abusing it.
Yes.
And they're abusing it to shut up and silence anybody who
dares oppose them.
dissents. Who has the power in that classroom? That in Edmonton classroom?
Teacher.
The teacher, because she gets to yell at students and basically tell them that you're
Who
terrible,
has the
horrible
power
people. She has
in
power.
the case for Donald Trump? The Biden DOJ and the Biden administration,
DOJ.
the establishment.
That's right. And who are the people who feel no fear of facing any kind of like consequences? They're the people in power.
Yeah.
So again, this is all power. This is all about like abuse of power. And by the way, like again, just reminder to everybody, if you haven't figured this out yet, if you believe that we're still a free country,
and we're living in a just and fair and free system, you're deluding yourself.
You're believing a complete lie. This is not the Canada you grew up in.
No,
at all. We're living a completely and totally unjust system with a complete there's no such thing as free speech anymore.
Yeah,
free speech is dead in Canada.
We are in a banana republic.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
we are in banana.
Banana.
Enough. But that has been Meanwhile during Degeneracy Month.
As always.
All right, that's going to be the end of today's show. I know we've gone late, but we had a lot to talk about because we did a show on Tuesday. So if you want to check it, and we're very chatty, of course. So if you want to find us, our video content can be found on BitChute and Rumble, and of course our safer content can be found on YouTube. If you want to find us on our text platforms, then you can check us out at Gitter, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can always check us our website at theshrewddudes.com. And with that being said, Danny, sign us out.
By the way, the YouTube content, it's like family friendly, but in the LGBT sense. In the LGBT sense. Because it's basically anything that they don't like, that has to be like
which that's what we didn't actually mention this. Hey YouTube, Trump won.
Woo!
Because you can say that now.
That's right.
Not that we might get dinged for other things.
The beauty contest. The beauty contest is what we deserve a recount. Anyways, we are the Shrewd Dudes, and as always, we like to remind you why be rude when you can be shrewd. And by the way, for the person chatting Kitty Jesus on our Discord chat, yes, that's part of the thing that we always try to strive for, is how to respond to people on Instagram or online in an intelligent and reasonable way, rather than basically delve down to their level. That is basically the theme of how we try to approach, is intelligent conversation, intelligent responses. That is the cream of our crop. So yeah, we encourage you to do that do that as well. And we try to simplify it as best as we can in all our shows. So yeah. All right. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you again on Tuesday for our Tuesday show. And I guess we're doing live streams now Tuesdays. Hey, Steven?
Yeah, it's consistently on Tuesdays.
Yeah. Okay.
And
it works. I actually do enjoy having the live stream as part of the show.
So I believe, Console, you're wondering when is the open mic session. The next open mic session, I'm just going to check the calendar. Usually it's the last Thursday of every month. Last Thursday of this month is the 29th of June.
However, let's see.
Is there a thing going on at that day? for you?
Yeah, because I will be in Kelowna on
Oh.
29th of June.
Okay.
So
do we want to schedule it for the
22nd.
the 22nd of June is
'Cause
our
I'll be
open mic
leaving-
night.
I'll be leaving on 23rd for BC.
Okay. And then you'll be gone for a week?
Be gone for possibly 2 weeks.
Oh, dang. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's going to be picking up my mom. But yeah, just I can still do the show from Kelowna, but
Okay.
it just won't be quite as
Well, yeah, and it'll be a little more awkward to do the open mic night. So yeah, we can do the open mic night on the 22nd. Yes,
Sure.
June
June
22nd, and we will aim to start at 8 p.m. So if somebody wants, like, if you want the link to our guest server for the Discord, just send it.
So we are in Alberta.
We're in Mountain Time.
So right now in Alberta it is 10:48. In BC it is 9:48. Ontario it is what 12:48.
Yes, 2 hours ahead.
Yeah,
so we're in Mountain Time. So it'll be 10 p.m. Eastern for us to start,
7
and 9 p.m.
in BC Pacific.
Yes, 7 p.m. Pacific.
Mhm.
So, yeah, invite your friends, invite those to disagree.
Yeah,
Open
absolutely.
mic nights, like I invited people to show up for the open mic nights, and
then
one
they
guy
dropped me
was
off.
like, "You guys were just cowards," and I'm like, "Dude, I gave you the Discord link. We waited for an hour."
Yeah.
And he never showed up, and he's like, "Well, you guys were chicken." I'm like, "What?" Like, seriously? I'm like, I have nothing to say. Then he's like, "Well, you won't dedicate an entire show to me." I'm like, "Because you didn't show up for 5 minutes."
Imagine somebody like saying like, "I demand an entire show."
Oh yeah,
from-"
that's
No.
what he just keeps demanding it. He's like, "I deserve an entire segment," and I'm like,
No, you don't.
"You have way fewer followers than we do. Why should I do that?" Like, I have no rationale to do that. I don't have to give you anything. I don't owe you anything. If you want to show up on June 22nd, please do. We'd love to have you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't show up, then don't be like, "Oh, they're cowards, blah, blah, blah." It's a joke.
This is how they operate. This is how
I
they
know.
always operate.
All right, but we do need to go. So, yes, we will see you on Tuesday for Tuesday News Day. And until then, have a great weekend. And as always, God bless.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.